All right. Good evening, good afternoon, good night, whatever it is, wherever you are. Hopefully, we have some people that are joining, and we'll see here. They'll jump in the chat. Oh, man. It's been quite a day today. I actually got out and shot my Z9. I was really happy to get it out. I haven't actually done anything with it, and a new lens and a new camera, and I've had it for 3.5 weeks or 4 weeks and hadn't done a thing with it. So today I got out and shot some motocross and had a good time. We say our bear.
Hey, David.
Oh, my daughter. She keeps tabs on me.
That's awesome.
Charles,
as every
good
good
evening.
child should.
Yes. Oh, it's a boring Saturday night when your daughter's watching your live stream.
Oh man.
Yeah, we got a few people in here. Not everybody will chime in. Agnetha, how you doing? Hey, thank you for the like, Agnetha. Yes, someone has to, right, David?
So how'd you like your Z9? How'd you like filming with it?
Okay, so Wednesday, I'm going to actually pull up everything raw. I haven't edited anything and let everybody see what the camera's doing. Now, that said, doing video with a 400 millimeter lens, and I took that lens specifically to try it out. The track that we were using today was a very small track, so 400 millimeter gets a little bit tight. You get a lot of nice close-up looks at the motor, and
yeah, I was gonna say 400 millimeters, a little more than tight. So.
I put the TC2X on it, so it turned it into a 400 to 800 millimeter. Nice. And I wanted to see the quality. I wanted to see what this lens does. But I'll tell you this, the IBIS in that camera and the stabilization in the lens was pretty daggone nice. So Wednesday, I'll play it back. I shot some 4K 60, 4K 120, and 8K. And I don't know. I'm happy with what I see. I wasn't prepared to do all that with the lens that I had, but I was fairly impressed with that on the video side. Yeah. But man, oh man, the AF was phenomenal. I was a bit concerned because I was trying to capture some little tiny birds out in the backyard, and I found that to be near impossible.
It was a 400 millimeter. Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought, uh-oh, what have I done here? Anyway, short story is, got it out to the track today, and it just locked on like no tomorrow. It was a pleasure. It was almost unfair shooting out there. So let me bring Andrew in. Andrew,
what's up, guys?
How you doing, buddy? Here's Cecil B. DeMille, Mr. Andrew. Film shooter, man, oh man, I am impressed, buddy. That is not easy to do. I would ruin 1,000 feet of film a day trying to get the exposure right.
Oh, I can tell you a crazy story right off the bat to add right on to that if you'd like to hear it.
Yeah, just a minute. Let's go around the horn here. Let everybody introduce themselves other than me. We'll start with you, Josh.
My name is Josh. I have a company called Diegetic Audio. We specialize mostly in audio production, podcasts, film. We're working on building a audio library that will be for sale soon. I've been actually working with Frame Voyager on that one. But yeah, that's been recording audio, and I've turned myself into an audiophile, and high quality, good audio is kind of my thing.
Well, we need your help.
Most people do.
All right, go ahead, John.
All right, I'm John with Frame Voyager, or Frame Voyager is the company I run. I pretty much have made this channel and community around, making camera stuff accessible and content for everyone, no matter if you're a cinematographer trying to make like a big budget movie or just some guy who likes, filming their kids with the camera. I try to like come up with content and things and create a community where everyone can kind of join and you don't really get ridiculed like you do in some of the Facebook groups or on Reddit. So that's kind of what I do. But also I do a bunch of filming all over the world, for clients, for personal projects, for travel documentaries and stuff. So it's fun. I love sharing it with everyone and putting out a lot of fun stuff on YouTube.
That dovetails well into what you just did there, Andrew. So tell everybody who you are and what you just did.
Yeah. So what's up, guys? I'm Andrew, and I'm pretty new to the filming stuff, but instead of jumping into the digital world, I just started shooting right on film immediately. I shoot on 16 millimeter stuff only, and started out with a Bolex non-reflex camera, which is probably one of the hardest cameras to learn on. Considering that there's not a prism going from the viewfinder to where the film itself is exposed, you actually have to turn the lens after you focus it to where the film is exposed. And I learned the hard way that it's not a that's the difference between like a non-reflex and a reflex. So I had the non-reflex and wasn't turning the turret after I was focusing it, and I was like, man, all this film I'm getting back is looking like crap. Like, I don't understand why. And, because there's 3 lenses on the turret, and so the one that was being exposed was not the lens I focused. And I probably wasted a couple $1,000 actually until I figured that out. And I only learned it maybe, I don't know, I probably shot about 15 rolls through the camera, and they're $50 a pop. And
yeah, those things, it's not cheap to do film anymore.
No, but I went right from that camera to a Bolex EBM, which is a Super 16 model. And, I was able to learn a lot, quicker of, how to set aperture and all that kind of stuff and expose the film correctly. But yeah.
That's really cool. You really went the hard road to start out with filming, doing it with the film stuff.
I was impressed. He was over at the house. This has been a year or 2 ago. I don't know, whenever it was. I can't remember, Andrew. And he's talking about his camera. He's shooting. I don't know what you were shooting at the time, but it was film. I know it's 35. I don't know what you were doing, but he's looking at our cameras, and it didn't interest him. He was more interested in what he was doing, and rightly so, because man, that is a hobby extraordinaire. And his photos were fantastic. I just saw his reel he did, his film, your little jaunt out west, Andrew.
Yep.
I don't know. Do you have the share screen button there?
Yeah, I do actually. Let me get this video up on YouTube, and then I'll.
When you get it up, just let me know, and I just want everybody to watch it. It's just a few minutes, but just get the nostalgic vibe of that thing. It's just fantastic. It's like watching motocross videos or films from 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like a taste of what I grew up watching, and it's just I guess it's just my creative lens, and that's just how it works. It's digital stuff doesn't really interest me. I mean, the only digital thing I have, if you even want to call it that, is VX 2000. That's pretty much
now that's a prime piece of gear right there. That's
what are you getting next, real quick, before you go pull your video up? What were you talking about your next camera?
I was looking into an Arri SR3. It's a Super 16 film camera, and they run about $16,000 to $18,000. So it's not.
Yeah,
it's definitely not cheap.
I bet the film for that's pretty good too. Or can you use standard film pretty much with
it's
that?
the same exact stuff. Actually, you could still just run the regular either 100-foot spools or a 400-foot reel. So
that's fascinating. I mean, I have to say, film has not died yet, because there's plenty of directors who are still filming with film cameras, like like Christopher Nolan, and his movies just have that extra something to it because that character that you get with film. Even Dune oddly filmed in digital, then put all of it onto film, and then converted it back to digital to get that kind of feel.
Yeah, you know what's funny too is it's funny you brought that up because I love describing this to people. Film is imperfect, and that's what makes it perfect.
Yep.
You know, and it bothers me in a sense when someone films something on digital and puts like a filter on it. I'm like, you can't replicate imperfection. You know.
No, it's the same thing they say sometimes with I know a lot of like focus pullers and stuff too, say with the autofocus stuff, and why a lot of people don't in movies don't really want autofocus yet with them is just because even if you don't nail the the focus pulling on it, it's still adding that character to it. So if it's that perfect every time, it kind of loses that kind of like human touch to it.
Maybe I should start shooting film.
You know, after you waste a couple $1,000s, it's not that hard.
I've done that in gear that I don't use.
I hear you. I hear you. That's why if I'm not using something for a few months at a time, I just like the camera I messed up, you know, with the film and stuff. I ended up selling that to a friend. He's learning on it now. So I mean, just pass it along, you know.
Roy's asking about transferring film to digital. The same question I asked you today.
Yeah, it's fairly simple. I just once I'm done with my, you know, cartridges and stuff, I actually send it to a company down in Queens called Negative Land, and they've got a real quick turnaround. They'll color correct it and they send it back in like I think it's like a 1080 file. I mean, it's fairly clear when you get it back. I was using another company out of New Bedford, Mass called Cinelab, and they were terrible. I was doing a project last year and I had a deadline for it, and I got about halfway through it and I was like, man, you know what? Like I'm keeping up on my end with my, you know, time and like how I'm supposed to be, you know, spacing things out to get it done on time, and they're not keeping up their end of the deal. And, you know, they were holding some of my stuff for over 30 days at one point. So I was like, you know, I got to switch up something. And the people down in New York have been nothing but fantastic with their work. And they were night and day better with the quality of the processing as well.
Well, one of the things you don't have to deal with is audio, though.
Nope, it's just straight film. There's no audio, which is nice. It allows me to just, you know, I could shoot to a particular song that I'm thinking about, and makes it much easier than having to line up clips. I mean, that's what I use the VX2000 for. But the problem with that, though, is that the tapes are getting old and they're discontinued and they start to glitch if you rewind them too many times.
Josh,
yeah, I think
there
you
you
just
go.
won me over to shoot without audio, because that is it's a very particular set of skills, I guess is what I'll say.
Now,
Yeah.
when you film it, do you go and try to film everything in one shot, or just try to get multiple different shots and then cut them together later in post? Or with that, because I know that's the one weird thing with film is you have, I mean, it's sort of the same with like, I guess, storage cards and stuff for video, but a lot of the times you know, if it's digital, you're just like, okay, got that, you know, and you just let it run and you do stuff and get clip after clip. How do you kind of approach that with film?
I try to at least plan it out of what shots I want to get, because you have to think too, film is all about lighting as well.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if say you're shooting and it's 4:00 in the afternoon and the sun sets at 6 o'clock, right? You're going to want to get all the shots that are in the darkest parts, especially for when you're shooting motorcycle riding. Like I was shooting out in a couple of these canyons in California, and it would be totally bright on one side of this, you know, the landing of this jump, but on the face of it, it was almost pitch black. So trying to find the right place to sit and stuff like that. I mean, that all you kind of figured out in the moment, but what I try to do is go into it with a plan of, okay, we need to be here at this time. And then from here we go here. And then, you know, I try to scope out things though before I do them, so I'm not going into it blind.
Yeah, I mean, that's a smart way to do it. That's what they always say. I think with digital so much, and I've heard this from some friends who use do more the film style for like photography and stuff too, is that it really forces you to think about your shots and do it, because you don't have as much as you know, even just from the settings point, you don't know what it's going to look like really until it's produced. So you really are a lot more attentive to everything than you are with digital cameras, where you're just kind of like, man, take a picture, and keep going. So I find that fascinating about film cameras.
Yeah, absolutely. It's every time you click the toggle switch to record, you're burning money. So it's, every shot is money. It's not like an SD card where you can, you shoot. I don't know. I really don't know much about them, but I mean, you could put a lot of memory on an SD card, whereas I only get 3 minutes of footage out of a 100-foot roll, and it's $50.
Wow.
Yeah. See, where on my cinema cameras, because I use Blackmagic cameras, I have a terabyte solid state drive, and I could get, even in like the highest setting, I can still at least get like an hour and a half with terabyte. So with yours, we get 3 minutes. That's crazy.
It takes you, if you use it sparingly, what I've noticed is I go through about a roll an hour.
Okay.
If that makes any sense. So I mean, it
Yeah.
takes you a while, unless you're really doing a lot of like time lapse stuff, and you could burn through a roll of film in 20 minutes if you do a time lapse kind of thing. But that's if you like space it out and stuff. That's
How do you do a time lapse with film? I'm curious.
Okay, you'll actually see a few time lapses I have in there. In this next video I'm going to show you, but on the older camera, for example, the Bolex non-reflex, there's a little toggle switch on the bottom of the body. I wish I had the camera, I could have shown you, but there's a, if you slide it back, there's an M for motion, and then if you slide it forward, there's a P for picture. So what you do is you perch up on a hill for however many hours, and you time your phone for however long you want your time lapse to be, or how fast you want it to go. So let's say I want to do like every 20 seconds, I'll click the thing forward and take a picture, and that'll amount to hours of
stop motion.
Yep, it's stop motion pretty much. So like, there's a scene in Danbury Airport where I sat up on the hill for 4 hours.
Dedication, man.
Yeah, and you just adjust the aperture as you go. You just really only have to focus at one time.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a stupid question, then I'll get out of the way and let you guys go at it some more. Is this an electric wound camera, or is it the old crank up the spring and let her run, or what? I don't know.
The one I'm talking about is a crank up one. It's from 1952.
Wow.
And then the one I have now, my EBM, is from 1972. It runs off a battery pack, like an RC car battery.
Okay.
So that has an electric motor, which makes it a lot easier to load. There's not a lot of jamming involved with it. You can't really break anything in it.
Want to bet?
No, you can break. They're all very fragile. But
I got a hammer that says different.
What lenses do you use with it?
Man, I have a Canon lens, I think. I'm not like, with the logistics of the camera, I'm not too great with it. Gotcha. I just know how to put the film in and shoot it and expose the film.
No, you know a little more than that.
Which, hey, that's more than I know. So
I'm pretty like simple when it comes to it. Like if it came to where I had to take it apart, I couldn't do it. I usually just take it to a professional who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, that's about what I do with my cameras if they break too. So
I think I have like a 12.5 120 lens.
Nice. Okay. I was wondering if you had any like really cool vintage lenses that you were using with it.
I mean, they're all C-mount lenses. So, I mean, I'm not entirely sure how old they are. They could be as old as the camera. They could be 15, 20 years old. Who knows? I know there's a couple. I bought the camera for, it's probably like a $5,000 body. And I think I paid like right around $2,200 for the camera, battery pack, the toggle switch to get the thing to operate, and then 3 lenses. And one of the lenses is like $1,000. So, I mean, like the lens is paid for the camera pretty much. So, I mean, I did pretty good. And the people I bought it from actually specialize in film cameras. So they actually rent that area that I'm trying to buy. So I'm going to rent it before I buy it to see if I actually like it.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see what that RE looks like with film for it, because you just don't hear that many people going after a camera like that, mainly because it's just so hard to get that film, run. And like you said, all the expenses with it, because it's not an easy, like if you mess it up, it costs you money. So it's fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know I know Chuck knows what Fox Racing is, but Fox is a fairly large motocross gear company, and they sponsor a lot of riders. And Fox also has a really large media side to their company. Mm-hmm. And every year they would produce a VHS tape all shot on 16 millimeter of all their professional riders in one 45-minute tape from the entire year. And it could be from all aspects of racing, which was really, really cool. So that was something that like I would burn tapes out, watching them over and over and over again, studying this little aspect. I could watch the same tape over and over and still learn something new each time for angles and shooting and all that kind of stuff. It's all about.
Well, I think that's another thing that's
Yep.
fascinating. You're all self-taught too, just based on what you've observed and watched, not as far as lessons or anything like that, just watching vintage films.
Yeah, the only time I ever watched a YouTube video was to learn how to load the thing. That's it. And, I pretty much went from there. And you're gonna screw up big time in order to learn, I guess. I saw, it's a piece of my childhood. It's an outlet for creativity. And I was like, I don't know, I'd see if I could try it. If I suck at it, then I'll just sell it and do something else,
How old are you, Andrew?
23. I'll be 24 in May.
23 years old, shooting 16 millimeter film. It's amazing, man. Nobody else in your peer group is doing that.
I got one friend who does it, and that's who I kind of picked it up from.
Okay.
I mean, hey, you could find yourself in some really cool niche jobs with that, because I'm sure that's something that a lot of people
Well,
like vintage.
I was going to touch on that. Actually, it's funny you say that. So the Fox Racing guys, I was actually out at I got invited to some they have a series of races going on, the Supercross series right now. Chuck knows about it. And they have like an event before these races kick off to kind of bring all the industry people together and stuff like that. And the main media guy was actually the guy who invited me. And I got to talking to him, and I was saying, hey, we should do, his name's Jordan. I was like, and my friend Jared, who got me into film, and myself should get together, have a meeting with Fox and see if we can try and get a new age video of all the videos that we used to watch and shoot it on the same cameras that they still have,
Yeah.
And so he was like, what's funny is right before you got here, we were just walking through the media department and we were looking at all the cameras, and they shot these videos on an SR3 model. And he's like, they have the camera right there and stuff. And they were very interested in doing this. And I was like, set up a Zoom meeting or an in-person meeting, and I'll try and get together a plan for what we could do with this. But I think that, in the next coming months, that something might happen with that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm sure you can put a nice price point on that too. The more and more you kind of get into that, that's a really cool skill to have. I wish I could do film stuff.
There's no reason why you can't, honestly. I mean,
for sure. Yeah.
It's the time. I mean, you got to pick one or the other with the amount of time for each. Yeah.
And especially with the motorcycle industry is all about, you take a picture, you transfer it to computer, you edit it quick, and you put it right up on Instagram, within a matter of 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And whereas I have to get back home, I was in California, I'm not going to ship the film because God forbid it gets lost in the mail. I mean, you're screwed, So, I mean, drive it back home, get it out here, unpack it, box it up, send it, wait a week, get it back, go through it all, chuck the stuff that's not good. I mean, like,
answer us this question real quick that has been asked. Do they still use ASA for film, even big roll film? Or is it, I mean, what's the rating?
They still have 400-foot rolls of film you could buy.
But I mean, is it ASA or ISO, or what's the exposure rate on the film that you're getting?
It's ISO.
Okay. So because in the film days, it was ASA, and when you said 500 for the night shots, well, that all rings a bell with those of us that actually shot some film,
Yep.
Faster film for, dark or nights or whatever. I actually shot Ilford 1600, pushing it to 3200 at night with a 58-minute exposure to get a photo. That was the old days. Yeah, that was it's crazy. But anyway, find your video when you're ready. Let me know, and we'll watch it. So that's the kicker: to see your video, which is actually a film that's been digitized, and based on what you're talking about with your equipment, and show everybody what you've done with what you've been talking about. It's pretty impressive. And I love all, just like you said, all the imperfections. I love the flares. I love the, just the blooms and you name it. I love it all. It's just so vintage.
Yeah, let me click the screen share button here. Okay. This might take me a minute here.
All right, that's okay. So I hope you guys in the chat are enjoying it. You know, I'm really curious when it comes to creativity, and you know that's kind of why we asked John to come in, and Josh is here also for audio. And I've seen more and more of you guys actually playing with some video. I wish Terry was in here because he shoots a Rolleiflex or a Hasselblad or something. He does a lot of film work, and he's been playing with the video to document what he's doing. So again, this is one of our weak points, most of us in here. And that's why you're here, John, to help us.
Happy to help.
Josh, you could see you helped me already tonight. I can't hear you. I don't know why. Oh, because I didn't turn on the ATEM Mini Pro. So, and audio, as we've talked about before, is huge. I mean, you know, bad video, good audio, you're in.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of that almost forgotten portion of what everybody's out filming.
Yeah.
But
it is
very
until
important.
they play back what they did
Yes.
and realize, oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you grade the audio for this this live stream?
Well, that's kind of hard to tell. Oh man, no, live audio is always a different beast than produced audio. All the compression and everything that happens during live streams is a little annoying, but understandable.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, if you have a problem, I think I've got it queued up. I can play it too, I think, but just let me know.
That might be the best bet here. I'm like, it won't let me share. I gotta update my computer and all this stuff. So,
all right.
Good old Windows.
All right. Hang on just a second.
Yeah, take your time.
You guys chat among yourselves while I look. Check out the chat and see if there's anybody asking you a question. I know you've been watching, John.
Yeah, I've been chatting too. I just want to say hi to Sunrethy, who is actually coming over from my channel. So it's cool to see some people from the Discord joining.
Now, Andrew, I wanted to ask: have you ever filmed with physical film and recorded audio at the same time? And if so, what equipment did you use, and how did you stitch them together?
I've actually never done that. The only thing I've done actually since my VX is so bad with tapes, I'm actually thinking about doing like an SD conversion. But what I did in the meantime is I did just put a recorder on my phone, and I did an interview with a kid, and I actually overlaid some of the talking with some of the film.
Okay,
that's the closest I've ever done. The audio was terrible. Honestly, I had to really play with it to make it sound somewhat decent.
Right.
But I just worked with what I had because it was just no good.
Okay.
All right, guys, you ready to roll?
Oh yeah, I'm excited.
All right, Andrew, you'll just have to. Andrew had a soundtrack that went with it, but I don't want YouTube striking me once again. So you can narrate as you go here, Andrew.
Yeah, so pretty much like I kind of started out with a black screen, and I just said a couple things about how, like, you know, going on a trip across the country by yourself is something that, you know, is an experience for everybody, and it's experience for someone like myself to visit all these places that were in all those videos that I watched when I was a kid, and then be able to, you know, be standing there and filming them as well with people who really know how to ride, which is pretty cool. You know, it's a bit tough to narrate without the music here, but you know, I used I don't know if people are familiar with the band Turbo Negro, but it's more of like a punk rock song, and I'm sure Chuck can add too. It definitely goes with the whole vibe of the video.
Yeah, it definitely does. But just watching the vintage look of this is just what I was attracted to when I first saw it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's one thing too. It's everybody is so it's the same thing over and over and over again. So I feel like a lot of people get excited to see something new and something that reminds them of, the past of what they used to watch on their TV when they were, you know, 10 to 15 years old, perhaps, and some still watch the same videos, I know I do.
Yeah, nostalgia is a big seller right now.
Absolutely. Film is actually really, really in right now. The camera place I go to, he can't keep stuff on the shelf.
It's fascinating. Question. So, I'm noticing some of this film. What FPS or because obviously some of this is coming in as like slow-mo film. So what exactly did you do to achieve that with film?
So there's actually a dial right on the side of the camera. It goes from 10 to 50. So it goes like 10 to 18 to 24, 25, and then 50.
Sweet. Okay. So then you go back and slow it down. Do you slow it down in post then?
No, nope. I actually, they can actually process it and it'll come right back to me, and I don't have to do a thing to it. It'll show it.
Sweet. Okay. Awesome. So it's almost like how the camera does it, or cinema cameras do it, or at least digital ones do it. Like that's interesting. That's interesting. I was kind of wondering about that. That's pretty cool that they can process it like that.
Yep. Yeah, and I shoot. Normally, you're supposed to shoot at like 24 frames. I usually shoot it at like 25 because it captures a little bit more detail, I notice.
Mm-hmm.
And then 50 frame per second isn't the thing about the SR3 model is I think it shoots like 100 frames per second, which is, that motor is going really, really fast.
Yep.
To be spinning that much film. But, you could pick up a lot more at a higher FPS with these cameras. And it's as cinematic as it is, it's much more cinematic at 100 frames and 50. And this is 50 right now. Yeah, so I tried doing some transitions here. That's that time lapse I was telling you guys about that took me 4 hours. Here's another sunset one that I did that took me like an hour probably. I would definitely like recommend like listening to it with some of the sound in it.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely gonna go back and look at this again.
Yeah,
after,
you guys would probably enjoy it much more than watching it deaf, but I understand the reasons why. But yeah, and I tried to just make them like all the scenes kind of flow together as one. I used to I did a video before where I would like do a segment and then kind of fade it to a black screen, put the name of the next segment in, and then fade it back into the next thing, and then kind of keep it going like that. And I think it was nice, but there was too much time in between where there was no sound.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of liked keeping it moving with like you end a song and then try and fade in, maybe a sample of sounds, whether it's like a heartbeat, heavy breathing, a door slamming or plane taking off, something like that, and then try and mix it into the audio for the
Let
next
me
song.
ask you this, Andrew. Is all of this shot on the same brand film?
Yeah, it's all shot on Kodak. Most of it, like this, is 50D because it was pretty sunny out, and it's a little overexposed, and I even underexposed it quite a bit. But I would go like say like if it was really sunny, I would do a 50D, but if it was somewhat cloudy, I would just do like a more in the middle, which is a 250. And it would definitely pick up a lot more in the darker spots.
I'm going to tell you, I've shot motocross, and it's not easy doing it with the cameras we have today. I'm impressed in your tracking and everything else because this is all manual, everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, manual focus. There's no auto. I mean, I have a tripod. Like this is a tripod shot, but it's not a very fluid tripod. You can kind of tell by the way the camera's moving. So that's probably something I should invest in. But
what does the camera and battery and everything weigh?
About 20 pounds. Yeah, so I mean, you better wear a belt. You better wear a belt when you got the battery in your pocket because your pants will fall down.
And everybody's complaining today that even the mirrorless are too heavy.
Yeah, if someone starts complaining, imagine walking around with like a newborn baby in your arms all day.
Oh, I love it, man. I love it.
Have you considered maybe using some like modern stuff, like getting like an easy rig or putting this on a gimbal potentially?
It's funny you say that because I actually have you're gonna think I'm even crazier now. I actually have a camera here. It's called a Gzap Camera. It's from World War II, and and just bear with me. So these cameras actually in Fox Racing would use them. I actually have it right here. I could show you it. It's fairly small. It's only about maybe 6 inches long, but it's
That is awesome.
Yeah, it's a metal case, and they would actually mount them up on the bikes themselves, so you can get like an onboard shot, and it's all 16 millimeter.
That's so cool.
So I mean, it takes a 50-foot magazine, so it's like a cartridge. You pop it in. It's manually loaded, and you get the magazine, you pop it in, and when it's done, it stops filming. You pop it out, you send it back. They take it back out by hand, and if it's not done right, you can destroy all the film with just showing it to daylight. So it has to be done in total darkness, and that's why too I get a lot of the lens flare on the sides too. I'm loading this in the daylight. So that's why I'm getting a lot of, obviously the spool ran out here, but, I get a bit more lens flare than or film burn on the sides than the average filmer does because, when you're out in the middle of nowhere.
This is a different format. Yep. This is a different format now. This is almost a 2x3.
What do you mean by that?
The letterbox bars on the side. It's not 16x9 or whatever we're used to. The other I thought was longer. Am I just imagining that?
No, I think this is 16x9 actually, because the only difference between a Super 16 and a regular 16, it's nothing visually actually. It's the Super just allows you to play it on widescreen. Mm-hmm. And I always thought that Super 16 meant something special, but I was, clarified.
Is it because they got rid of? Because I know with Super 35 millimeter, when they used to do that, they would actually they made it bigger so you could capture more on it, and they would actually took out that audio because they used to have like the audio as part of the actual strip, and they took that out and made that. That's what Super 35 essentially was.
So it looks the same as 16. It had an audio strip pretty much.
I think that's what that would be. That's interesting. That's fascinating. That's fascinating. That's really interesting.
Yeah, there's so much you could learn off of just something old. It actually teaches you. It's just you learn a lot. I mean, I feel like you could do so much on a new camera nowadays that it's it really takes a certain skill to just as simple as it is. It's you really have to eye things up a lot differently.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. What were you saying?
I was just going to say it eliminates the run and gun mentality.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, Andrew, when I saw it, I knew it wasn't video because, nowadays everybody'd be panicking if that was their video. I loved the imperfections, the light leaks and everything else in it. It reeks of nostalgia, man. And my hat's off to you for the work you put into working with film, man, and these cameras. Again, a 20-pound camera. And we've got guys that are talking about today, well, I carry a 3-pound camera all day long and my shoulder hurts. I mean, come on.
I mean, yeah. The lens alone is like
you need a second. They need to be a second shooter for you with your cameras.
I need someone to hold it. You kidding me?
I'll let you complain, man, because 20 pounds is no joke trying to heave it around all day long. But
yeah, and running around, the hills in California or some sand track out here, and it's.
Well. Good on you, brother. And I appreciate you coming on and talking to us about it because I just love the creativity about it. And I know you're going to continue to get better. I hope you get that thing with Fox. I even told my wife when we were watching it and I was all giddy about it and she liked it too. I told her, I said, everybody that's in that video, and I don't know what to call it, film, video, whatever. But everybody that's in it's going to want a copy of it, and I'm sure they've reached out to you to get a copy.
Yeah, it's that film actually too. I was in the first segment where there was those two kids, Evans and Durham. Actually, the kid Evans is making his own film, and we were shooting, and he's going to use the footage I shot in his film as well. So
Great.
It's just more exposure, which is cool with me.
All right, man. Anybody in the chat got any other questions for Andrew here? I'm not getting rid of you, Andrew. I just want to catch up, and then we're going to move into the digital world and see if you can glean anything from what we're talking about.
All right. Yeah, I'll stick around for a bit. I'll stick around.
You're welcome to stick around the whole time, man. I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah, of course.
Check the lens with a torch.
Oh yeah, the fungus. That's also like with the first camera and wasting all that film. All the lenses I had were full of fungus.
So what?
Which that's not generally hard to fix too much, right? Like you can.
I think. What does this comment say here? Check the lens with a torch. Make sure there's no fungus or fog. Also, I've heard that if there's fungus in them, that they're just garbage. Honestly.
I've heard from some people in my Discord who are like lens nerds that you can actually like get someone to take it apart and clean it, and sometimes you can use UV filters to get it if it's not too bad. But
yeah, these ones
that's what I've been told.
Were pretty bad. I wish I could show you because I actually have the first roll of film I ever shot, and I actually got it back on an email from Cinelab, and it's like, Andrew B whatever, and it literally just said right on the top of the title, overexposed, and I was like, oh boy.
You need one of those radioactive lenses, huh, John?
Hey, now I did buy one of those. I
did you?
Purchase one.
I figured you would.
I had to bid on it a couple of times on eBay because someone outbid me the first time by like $1. So, but they're really cool because they like turn that yellow tint or whatever inside. So yeah. I figured out how I'm gonna attach it to my I think either my EF mount or my MFT mount on my pocket, or my high-end Ursa G2 camera. So I'm definitely going to use that, and then also have bought a hazmat suit and some other stuff to really play up the radioactive side, even though it's not really that dangerous. I mean, that's a good thumbnail title, right?
Now is that made with like uranium glass, or
I think it's what is it, bromine, however you say that. I think that's coated with something that has like a small amount of radioactive material in the inside. Okay. That's why if you'll see it, the glass actually turns yellow. And if you leave it out in the sun, supposedly, it will actually like clear it up.
Hey, Nikon has an issue with their new 400 millimeter 2.8 TC lens. There's now a warning. Honestly, Nikon posted a warning for those that have pacemakers and whatever else. The magnets in that are strong enough that they might affect a pacemaker. So you need to incorporate that into the maybe you do a whole hazardous lens, thing.
Wow.
Yeah, like top 5 most dangerous lenses you could own.
There you go. So you got to get you a pacemaker thing and the hazmat suit for the other lens. So yeah, man, I see you putting together something that's going to be pretty fun.
I mean, I love a good weird video.
Yeah, that caution just came out from Nikon about the lens. I don't think it's really going to affect anybody, but it's one of those, CYA things. They've got to make the statement because 1 in 10 billion people might be affected.
I did not hear that. I'm going to look that up. That's an interesting story, actually, which maybe I'll include that in my one of my ungraded camera news episodes.
Roy, he just said, doesn't the 100 to 400 have the voice coil AF2? I think that it does. Don't ask me why it's different. I don't know. Stronger magnets, maybe. I don't know. But let's see, where did I see this story? Anyway, other makers have the same issue, but nobody's actually said anything about it. Nikon just decided to put out the, hey, We're not going to be responsible for your pacemaker or your life. So there you go.
Roy,
You got 2 hazardous lenses you can start your top 5 with.
yeah, there we go. I'll have to find a couple more. That's so hilarious. Roy also says that his PC speakers have bigger voice coils than the 400 millimeter. So
Yeah, it's just a CYA thing that they're doing. Oh man. See what you don't have to deal with, Andrew, with vintage lenses. Well, no, wait a minute. The radioactive lenses are vintage,
they are
aren't
vintage. They're like
Yeah.
Russian lenses too. So
Yeah. Why doesn't that surprise me? I mean, that just goes right along with the story, doesn't it?
I mean, pretty much.
Oh man. I need somebody with a pacemaker to test it. Oh.
Sounds like a really bad idea.
Yeah, that sounds.
Oh man. Oh, it's too much. Oh boy. Oh. So 15 old Nicors are their Nicors radioactive as well. There you go, Andrew.
What we got? Oh, live chat on the side. Look at that. Andrew Gray film time machine. Yeah, I think it's cool. I mean, it's cool seeing, like things you put together in your head and people enjoying them. It's, like it gives you a purpose. It feels cool.
Well, let's drag John in here with. Do you do a storyboard, Andrew?
I try to.
Okay, it's me. Me too, but it just goes off the tracks for me.
Yeah, the thing I've learned with filming and getting people together and stuff is, if it happens, it happens. Just kind of let things be. That's just how you could take life.
My problem is I get started and then the good idea fairy shows up with, "Hey, try this."
Oh, I listen to it too. Sometimes, like,
I can't shut her out of my head, and now I'm off track and I'm changing the whole story.
I mean, I think it's good to be very flexible when you have creative ideas you're trying to accomplish. Because I know there's so many ideas that I've had for like fun YouTube videos that, I'm going to film it this exact way. Then I get back to the edit and I'm like, that doesn't work. I need to change up how I'm doing it based on what I was actually able to get. So it's just being a bit, I think it's always being flexible with your creative ideas is always key, and being able to like maintain that main idea that you had, but then fix it, with whatever you're capable of. So, you can't fully accomplish something. Like, I'm not really an animator, but if I want to do something that's close to that, like, oh, that works, that fits into what I kind of was going for anyways. It's not like, Pixar level, but it's, it's good enough for what you can do.
Yeah, you make it work accordingly.
Yeah.
All right, let's get Josh in here. Who's got an audio question for Josh? I don't want Josh to be left out of this conversation. I have many, as you all know, those that have been following me. I've had videos where or live streams where I actually had to just shut everything down and reboot, thinking that would fix it, which it didn't. So who else with the audio? So, Josh, do you promote the shoot the video, shoot the audio separate and then meld in the post-production, or shoot audio along with the video?
He and I actually fight about this a lot. So
yes.
I'm all about shooting it with the video because I can't ever match it afterwards, but go ahead, Josh.
So I am all for separate, purely because that is what the equipment is set up to do.
Okay.
There are programs out there that will match the audio up to the video for you. So that portion of it is solved.
Where is this magic?
Red Giant.
Yeah.
Pluralized. Actually, you can drop all of your stuff in there and it pulls all your video and audio, syncs it all together for you.
I'm all about doing it for me. So
yeah. So that solves that. But the biggest reason that I'm a proponent of that is when you're shooting a run and gun style, like we are often doing, when John and I are working together anyway. It's hard to connect that recorder to the camera if it's on a different person. So unless you have another wireless system transmitting to the camera, it just doesn't make sense to actually connect those two pieces of gear.
Okay. Okay. For us lone wolves that are out here, or let me ask this. For Andrew, there's a lot of ambient sound and a lot of conversations that don't have to be perfect match. Do you think about doing any of that, capturing audio?
Yeah, actually, Josh and I were talking about that a little bit before. I actually did another video. It's like, if you go on my page, I released it like Thursday night, where I filmed on the VX cam here, and the audio was so bad I just downloaded an app on my phone, and I overlaid the audio with, I matched it up to his voice and stuff in a few seconds of the clip, but I would take, perhaps if he was talking about, oh yeah, like we prepped the track with the bulldozer, when he would say the word bulldozer, I would match it up to someone running a bulldozer, so just kind of like that.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but everything that I understand about actual film cameras is that the frame rate is not always necessarily constant. And so that can also make matching audio relatively difficult if you're recording separate from the film.
Yeah, to an extent. I would think maybe with an older camera that's needs to be serviced, that would be the case.
Okay.
Mine is, I've never really had it glitch, in all honesty. It's on the money most of the time. The only problem I had was a broken wire in the battery harness, and it would intermittently shut off, which was fun.
Well, there's a lot of conversations that are going on. I know the crowd. Okay. So there's a lot of stuff. And when you're doing, I don't know what to call it, but it's, let's just say B-roll. When you're showing the bikes out doing their thing, I just figured there would be a lot of opportunity there to overlay audio from all the conversations that are going on back at the truck, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, and talking about their buddies that are, out riding and whatnot. Yeah. I'm not trying to tell you what to do with your films.
No, you're totally right in the sense that, like, I honestly try to shoot that on the other camera though. To like,
well, hold it, Josh. What would be a good handheld recorder or whatever, something to pick up that ambient conversations? John raised his hand first.
John looks like he has an answer.
I'll let Josh go. I know there's some new tech that came out recently that may or may not be good. It depends on, I guess, what you think of it.
Oh, well, I'm interested to hear what he has to say. I would say in something in that scenario, you're going to want probably not just handheld unidirectional recorder, because you're going to pick up literally everything. You want more of a shotgun. You definitely want a shotgun mic, and then some recorder to piece with that. And I'm actually have been doing some looking into the new Zoom F3 that's supposed to be coming out. I think they start shipping in March. If it lives up to the expectations that they've set, looks like a phenomenal piece of gear. Pair that with something like a Sennheiser MKE 600, and you have a relatively low cost. I say relative because audio is expensive, especially when you're looking for quality. But you pair the two of those together, you got $600 into it, and you're going to be able to go into anywhere you want and get something decent something.
Yeah, especially with that Zoom F3, which has that 32-bit float audio, and it's only $330 for that actual recorder. Now, granted, you still have to buy like a microphone with it, but it does some interesting things. Like, I think you can actually monitor the audio from your phone, or it will actually record the audio to your phone too.
Yeah, so it has both Bluetooth monitoring and Bluetooth control, so you can stop and start from your phone, as well as it's able to do wireless time coding, which is a little bit outside of what I understand and the way that interacts with cameras. But the 32-bit float means that you don't have to adjust any gain. It's the you could equate it to shooting like in a raw on the Blackmagic camera as opposed to not. I don't know it. I don't know any other way. But it just means that you're not going to clip the input, and no matter how loud you get, which motorcycles are loud,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
gonna be able to capture the audio and not get distortions.
Yeah, that's one thing I would like to add is like, you know, say someone's at the base of a jump and they're about to go up in the air, you know, it'd be nice to get like, you know, while the song is playing and stuff, it'd be nice to have that, you know, in the background, you know, whether it's faintly or really loud or whatever. Um, just something different, you know, something just,
Yeah.
you know, because, you know, as cinematic as it is with, you know, the song and, you know, all the clips line up to maybe the beat or whatever, you know, having extra sounds in there from what I've been experimenting with is like, it makes the experience much more, you know, especially if you ride as well, like it makes it that much more intense, you know, and
Yeah.
you're able to feel as if, you know, you're on the bike, you know, and like that's what I try to portray, you know. Even I try to portray it too for people who don't know anything about motorcycles to where they could watch it and go, wow, this is intense, like this is really cool, you know.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see it from both sides. I think
Yeah, that's like you were saying with trying to add more of the sounds and the different things in there, and like you're trying to capture some of that noise from the bikes and stuff. And a lot of people, you could show them a video with two different things with no sound effects and the other, and they'll say that the one with sound effects and more of that, like what you're saying, is more cinematic, even if it's not filmed in that cinematic style. But
Sure.
they're like that really like audio production and trying to attribute sounds and like different things to that is really what makes something more cinematic, more so than like, I don't know, what do people say, like the aperture or how much bokeh you get in the background or your
Sure.
depth of field. So
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that 100%.
Agnetha asks, audio editing software important for video when transferring from analog to digital?
It can be, but it depends on what the end use is going to be. If you're just looking to transfer a file from an old tape recording to an MP3, then you know processing may not be necessary. Just purely getting that file is. But if you've actually recorded something on a tape, then you know the transfer to digital, you're gonna be processing it for its end use. It really just depends. It's as much of a non-answer as I have.
Okay, that's all right. Here's the big question.
yeah, it's about you can pay for it monthly, but it's about $600 a year.
Okay.
But I think you can buy Pluralize for cheaper than that because Red Giant's like this big and all-encompassing software that you can actually plug into After Effects and Premiere, and I use it a lot because it has a lot of really good effects stuff that I can just put on things. But it comes with a whole package. It's actually pretty. I think it's pretty worth it. You do need a fairly decent computer to run it because it is heavy on the processing. So
Okay.
Yeah. So I see Caesar's asking, what's the best record format? Wave at 96 hertz, 48, 16, 24-bit. So when it comes to the hertz, it is the higher is going to give you better overall quality. Whereas the bits there's actually two different types of bits. There's the bit rate and the bit depth. The bit rate is the amount of information that's taken in, and the bit depth is what determines your noise to input ratio. So where your noise floor is versus where the actual sound that you're recording comes in the input. I personally like to record at the highest settings that are possible. So most of my files are 96 hertz 32-bit when I'm recording voiceover, and then 96 hertz 24-bit when I'm in the field, because that's the highest setting my Tascam field recorder will encode. But essentially, the higher those numbers are, the higher your quality in end use is. There are some experiments that people are doing with 1-bit encoding. I haven't been able to read too much on those, but apparently, like the 32-bit, it is impossible to clip the input. I'll have to see if I can find some information on that.
Interesting. Does the 1-bit is there a benefit to doing that over 32-bit float?
Yeah, it's 1/32 the file size. So it's
So it's
literally
essentially like what Blackmagic does with their file sizes, where they compress it, but you're still getting pretty close same quality.
yes, but without the compression. That's a bad.
So it's like going from H.264 to H.265.
Sure.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going too technical. I'm
Sure.
sorry.
Now you're talking Martian. What is this
Sorry.
language you speak?
Sorry.
Which will be some more that we can talk about here in a bit, because again, I'm not just a newbie. I pressed the record button today. I actually got something to come out of the camera, but I don't know how. I don't know how it works, and I don't know what the best format is or anything else. So we talked about that last time, John, and I'm sure we're gonna get some questions about that here in a minute. So
Yeah, I'm excited to see kind of what the Z9 does. I'm actually wanting to get it here at some point and test it out myself with a video and kind of see some of the settings on it.
Yeah. So Roy is asking if MP2 and MP3 are lossy like the video. They are. It's actually the WAV file is essentially the highest quality audio you will ever have. Once you process into MP3 or almost any other format, you're going to lose certain dynamic range and information that most of the time you don't need when you're doing playback, like downloading a video from YouTube or playing a CD or music in your car. It's not going to matter as much. But in the cinematography and videography field, when you're putting it into 5.1 surround sound and all these other formats, it's best to keep the highest quality lossless format, that is a wave.
Roy, I hope that helped you. I'm still processing it. Oh man, there was oh, just so everybody knows out there with us, the call line is open. So if you would like to call in and talk to these gentlemen in their language, by all means do so.
Yeah, definitely give us a call.
Or Andrew, whoever, if you'd like to call in, there's the number. And I have WhatsApp on the phone, so you just add the country code or whatever that. You know, I'm so technical. I am.
Just call the number.
Wherever you
go. Oh, man.
All right. So there it is, folks. Jeffrey just asked a question. I won't leave the number up there. I'm not that technical. I can't put them both up at the same time.
Yeah, he's asked, is a studio microphone adequate to do audio voiceovers onto video? My answer to that question is I am using a $38 Amazon special in most of the voiceovers I do.
Now you're talking our language.
Yeah. It's a Fifine. That's the brand. F-I-N-E.
Fine.
Yeah. Fifine.
Oh,
F-I
okay.
Fine. And it's a USB condenser microphone, and I honestly picked it up secondhand for like $5. Bought it for the actual arm and pop filter that came with it, and realized that it actually was quieter than my Samson C103. That's also a USB microphone. So, more expensive is not always better. Just proper processing and recording, and that's honestly more important than the mic you're using.
Yep.
Great, man. That's what we like to hear. Help us out, Josh, when you can.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Albert says, "Welcome to the Radioactive Club." I guess, Albert, you have.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be part of the Radioactive Club. I'm still waiting for it to come in. I really hope they send it in a box with like radioactive tape or like with all those stickers all over it. Like I'm
Drop it off
and
in
a
the
bomb or
hazard
something.
Comes in a
stickers
lead
on
box.
Yes. So I'm really excited. I am going to play up that whole radioactive thing probably to some ridiculous level for the entire video. So it's gonna be fun. But I'm excited to see what the lens generally looks like, because I love playing around with vintage lenses, and I really haven't gotten to do it as much. So this will be fascinating.
And Albert chimed in. I'll put the number back up again. Albert chimed in with this on the fungus issue.
For the lens, yep, makes sense. Yeah, I would say the fungus really can get into cameras in multiple ways, especially with some of the cinema cameras I use. I see people all the time have fungus like on their actual sensors, and I'll see it all the time. Is there any way for me to clean this off? Is there any way? No, you pretty much need to get a new camera at that point. And that's why if you're in like really humid climates, it's really good to get some kind of dry box or dry cabinet to put everything in.
I guess that's why you have a floor to ceiling humidity controlled cabinet for your gear.
I do. It's a little ridiculous. Yeah, it's like 2 doors below and doors above, but it's all humidity controlled. It's also a really good background piece too. But
Yeah.
You know, B&H runs sales quite often with those humidity controlled cabinets. I don't know if they're any good, Rugard or whatever. You
Yep,
can buy
that's
them
what
in
I
all
have.
different.
I
Okay.
have the biggest one that I'm pretty sure no one ever buys.
You got a cigar shop humidor.
Yes.
I mean, I do, because
Exactly what he has.
I'm pretty sure I'm the first person that made a review video and an unboxing for this thing ever, and it's been out for it. They literally shipped it in a crate. They had to get like this specialized. I had no idea this how it was going to show up, but I had to like take it out of this wooden box and everything and like pull it all. It was crazy, but I mean, it's worth it. It's great.
Well, let me ask this. Can you put a lens in there that may be suffering from humidity or something? Will it dry it out?
I don't know if it'll take the fungus off of it though.
Fungus is pretty tough.
Yeah,
Fungus is tough.
It's better to be careful. If you're out in wet, humid conditions, make sure you try to dry off your equipment as much as you can. Put it in a dry box, let it dry out. Yeah, it doesn't happen often from what I've seen, but when it does, it's bad.
Yeah, usually if say if I shoot in the rain or something, I'll cover the camera in a trash bag and then just take it apart and clean it when I get home.
Yeah.
Hey.
Oh, we got a call.
Vitali, hang on, buddy. You there? Here we go again. Hang on, folks. Where's my audio man? Go ahead, Vitali.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good.
Great.
Good.
All right, they hear you. Go, buddy.
Hey, so quick question to your audio video guys. Maybe they can help me.
Yeah, fire away.
So I recently picked up the Z9, and I'm trying to learn all those tricks of the camera, and I was curious about the H.264 versus H.265.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess specifically the question is, if the subject, let's say, like Chuck is sitting right now, properly lit, does it really matter what bit we use to shoot 264, 265?
So it depends on what resolution you're sitting. Like, are you asking more about like bit rate for between the two of them? I'm assuming what you're asking is like
What's the difference between the two?
Well, H.265 is one. I've used it more as like a rendering for like from Adobe. It essentially it's just a codec. It's like a video codec. But H.265 is a way to render something at a way lower file size than H.264. So it kind of compresses it from what I understand in a way, but in a way that you don't lose too much information at. I still, for most of my video content, will export at an H.264 and an adaptive bitrate. just because I do a lot of 4K filming, so bitrate's really my friend before I have to upload it to YouTube, because YouTube will just kill it. So it's already better for me to upload it at a higher bitrate that's clean for 4K. So if you're filming something that's not 4K, you could probably get away with something that's H.265 because it has a lower file size. But you know, you want higher. The more resolution you have, you need more bit rate. Otherwise, your 4K footage isn't going to look that good. So, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah.
What about audio? You had an audio question? We don't want to leave Josh out. We brought him all the way in from parts unknown.
I don't have really an audio question.
Yeah, no one needs the audio guy until something gets screwed up.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. On set, we need the audio guy. Oh, hey, you enjoying that camera, Vitaly?
I am. It's that thing is more than I dreamed of, for sure.
Yeah, I finally got out today to shoot mine, and I had a ball. It really impressed me. So I'm glad you're having fun with it as well.
There's so much to learn. I'm sure I'll post a lot of more content coming up in the future. But the you know, when I did my unboxing and stuff, it was just a joy to do that.
And hey, best unboxing video I've seen. Your son is wonderful, man. That was fantastic.
No, thanks.
All right, buddy. Anything else?
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. No,
All right. Thanks for the
Great talking with
call.
thanks. Yeah, bye-bye.
All right. Well, we did get a phone call. Glad I invested all this money in that. For all of you out there in the audience, no, that's okay. It's a whole lot easier though to call and ask the question and get an answer, and maybe get a
Absolutely.
you know. So, hey, we're on a roll now. Watch out. Hello, you're on. Oh, hang on. Where's the audio guy?
I'm not the
Little
audio
too
guy,
far
it's
away.
Albert.
Hey, Albert, there you go, man.
How's it going, fellas?
It's going good, buddy.
I want to welcome everyone to the Radioactive Club.
Thank you.
Talk about fungus
I
and
am
radioactive lenses. I like those. I'm a big fan.
cool. I'm really excited. I'm pumped to get this lens in. I'm just waiting for it to get shipped from wherever.
Which radioactive lens did he purchase?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it's the. Let me check.
Are you hearing him?
Yeah, I'm
I'm
here.
having a little hard time here because I turned down my TV so that my audio will not bother you guys.
Oh, okay. You should
Okay,
hear
or should
him
I turn
too.
on? Should I turn on my
Yeah,
computer?
can you hear me
the
from
volume.
here?
Hang on a second. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Sweet. I got the Asahi Super Takuma,
Which one?
the Super Takuma 50 millimeter lens.
Hold on, let me turn up the volume on my computer because I cannot hear you over my phone. You're too far away. Give me a second.
No, you're good.
Okay, just give me a second. Let me catch up to the live stream. Okay, there we go.
And I wanted to see the quality.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I'll give you guys some advices on radioactive lenses that if you're going to get a couple of them, I suggest if the M42 to get yourself a focusing helicoid, okay? That way you keep the lens further away from your eye and further away from the camera sensor. That'll help. It's also safer, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Also, another thing you can do is when you're not using the lens, take it immediately off the camera, okay, and put it in a wood box, and it's going to be safe. Once the lens is 3 feet away from you, it's not going to affect you. 3 to 4 feet away, the lens will never affect you or anyone else. Okay.
I'm
And
kind of scared now, to be honest.
that's pretty much all I have to say. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for taking my call, Chuck.
No, man, no problem. Thanks. I'm laughing at John now.
I took a look at his eyes.
he's going to be in the backyard tomorrow night burying it.
I might really need
John,
that.
I have 10 of them. Don't worry. I'm still alive. I also collect projection lenses that are also radioactive.
All right, cool. Cool.
Okay, so I own about 10 radioactive lenses, and I'm still alive. So
All
it's all
right,
good.
man. All right,
All
good.
right. Thank you.
Hey, no,
Thank you for
thanks a
taking my-
lot, Albert. Go ahead, John.
You're welcome. Good night.
I mean, Roy says here that he keeps his radioactive lenses under his pillow. So I mean, that's living life on the edge right there.
That's reassuring. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, you didn't expect that, did you, John?
From what I've been told, they're safe, and he's telling me put it in a freaking wooden box and stay 3 feet away from it.
Bury it in your backyard. Go get it.
I love it. I love it. Oh man. All right. Call line's still open. Man, that was great. Thanks, Albert. Seriously, man. You need to call in more often. Oh. Well, John.
I know. I mean, Roy assures me they're safe, but
I feel like I need to find a radioactive microphone.
Ooh, Roy did ask an interesting question about 8K overkill for filming 4 cameras. It is. It unless you how do I explain it? So resolution is great, but it's one of those things that if you don't really have a purpose for it or a need for it, it's not really going to serve you that much. Especially if you, I mean, for me, the way I would use extra resolution is if I needed to punch into something or get super highly detailed footage. But past that, I'm not really going to be doing too much. So it's fine to use, but you're going to use up a lot of space. So for me, it's more like, do you have a good use for it? And if you do, go for it. But to be honest, 4K is just fine. A lot of people still do 1920 by 1080 for films and stuff. So resolution's not all it's cracked up to be. It's more about bit. And I'm hearing some kind of distortion. I don't know if everyone else does.
I'm glad I'm not the only one. I'm normally the only one.
It's probably me. If it's audio, it's me. You may hear the fan in my Adamus running.
That sounds like it.
Yep. It just kicked on a few minutes ago, or I don't know, maybe more than that.
Yes. Agnetha says that listening to us talking about radioactive lenses, giving her the idea to wear a yellow t-shirt with a radioactive symbol on it to wear while she's taking photos with it. Absolutely. I mean,
Great idea.
I would play it up. I mean, I have literally bought a hazmat suit and a full-on mask to wear dealing with it just to be fun. I really should go out and like film with it out in some public park in a full suit.
And have somebody filming you to watch the expressions.
Thankfully, I will say TikTok has taken away so much of the weird, like, oh, you're just filming at a park and everyone's staring at you, because literally everyone's filming something with their, nowadays. So it just makes it easy to go do stuff because, like, oh, they're just filming a TikTok.
Yep.
Oh, man. Hey, let me grab this real quick. Hank just asked which AF modes I was using today. And Hank, I'll tell you, primarily, I did 2 things. One, I put it in the auto, let it choose between animal, human, and vehicle. And it did a real good job there too. I don't know if it was any stickier when I switched primarily to vehicles or automobiles or whatever. But it stuck on the bike like glue. I was absolutely impressed, especially in video, because I have one clip where I'm doing some 4K 120 of my stepson, and it just locked on him, and it's following him around as I turn all the way around, I hear the other guy coming up the track, and I just, without even stopping, hesitating, swing around to him, and bam, snapped right on him and followed him throughout his run around the track. So really impressed with it in the video. I tried some human detection while they were on the bike, but I soon stopped that because I just wanted to. I thought the vehicle thing was perfect, and there was no need to try to get it to find the rider, because with enough depth of field, depending on your aperture, the rider is in perfect focus. And I'll show you guys that Wednesday. I'm going to pull all this up. It's all raw. I haven't edited anything, and let you see what the camera did and what the lens did. At 800 millimeter, I was extremely impressed with how sharp. I didn't see any degradation in the resolution. So Wednesday, I'll pull it up and let everybody tear it apart. There is a bit of noise because I was shooting at, I think, 2000 ISO. That's my fault. And there are a couple of misses in the beginning, but I attribute that to me too. Once I got the hang of it, man, it was working. It was almost unfair. I wish I'd had this when I was shooting nationals. It isn't fair. It's so good, but I'll let you guys be the judge of it. All right, back to the show.
What kind of autofocus does the Z9 have? Is it just a normal autofocus system where it's using certain pixels to autofocus, or is it kind of like how Canon does it with the dual pixel autofocus?
No, it's phase detect, but with the new backside illuminated sensor, and it's the, what is it, guys? I just lost my thought. Dual sensor, backside illuminated, and the algorithm and the AI in the camera and the processor in the camera all add up to its ability to find and lock focus on certain objects, whatever you have. And I'll tell you, as far as vehicles go, with the motorcycles today, it was on it. I mean, it just locked, and extremely happy. I ran 120 frames per second burst, 120 frames per second, individual photos, and it didn't miss one time as the bike's coming at me. Not one of the photos is out of focus. It blew me away. It really did.
Dang, what resolution is that at for the photos?
At 120 frames per second, it's only 11 megapixel JPEG, but at 20 frames per second, it's full res raw. So 45 megapixel, and it's making these calculations using AI, of course, to assist. It's making these calculations in between each frame so that it's catching every frame in focus. The processing going on in that camera is just amazing. Now, I'll say that the Canon R5 is equally as good. The A1 is equally as good. Nikon just now got to the dinner table for AF, and it's just fantastic, man.
I was going to add too, Chuck, what time does the Wednesday show normally start?
Noon.
Oof.
Yeah, that's for all the folks that are Europe, over, Asia, everywhere else. They get an opportunity to find a more comfortable time to, join in the live stream. Saturday nights, always 9 p.m.
All right. Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's about my time to boot out.
Tap out, buddy. I just appreciate you coming in here and talking to us about it.
No, I appreciate you guys giving me a space to show my work and, have some listening ears and open minds to it. I appreciate it.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'd love to talk with you and hearing about all the film process and stuff. I was going to ask before you left, and maybe I can get your contact info from if you'd be interested in maybe doing a podcast talking about how your process for filming with film. I mean,
yeah,
it's
absolutely
pretty fascinating. So cool. Okay. Yeah.
Right on.
All right. I'll just pass him your number.
Sweet.
Yeah, we'll do that. That works for me.
Okay. Awesome. Make it easy for you. All right, brother.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
All right. You too, Andrew. Thanks again for coming by.
Of course. Thank you.
All right. Have a good night, buddy.
Later, boys.
All right. The three amigos
Oh, yeah.
remain. One left the ring. All right.
Now is your time to ask any video and audio questions. So,
Absolutely. Don't worry about missing the beginning. Jump in now, and you got any questions, let us know. Touch Life asks, let's see, using Nikon Z9AF is cheating. Yeah, it is. It is. I was shooting into the sun today, by the way. So I do know that the lens with the extreme front light has a little bit of chromatic aberration. Not bad, but a little bit. It's shooting directly into the sun. However, the problem was I couldn't see through the viewfinder. And I just pointed the camera at the rider as he's coming at me and thought, well, here's a true test. And it picked him up, and all the photos are in focus. Just again, it's cheating. Now I'm going to find some situations where it doesn't work as well, but today it was on fire. So, but now my video, let's see. I can't play it right now. I was going to play it for you guys.
Oh, too bad.
Uh-oh. Now you challenged me.
Now, were you using any filters when shooting directly into the sun?
I took no. I know it sounds crazy, but I took an ND filter with me, a 0.3 ND filter, just in case maybe the sun. I thought the sun would be overhead, but I got there early and it was still lower in the sky, not low, but lower in the sky. And anyway, I was too excited. I got out and just started shooting. But I think I was shooting at 240 frames per second because I set it up for 120 and just left it there. And at ISO 64, the camera goes down to ISO 64. And believe it or not, I didn't have a problem. So I was prepared. If I had seen that if it was overexposing, I could always put the ND filter on it, but didn't have to.
Interesting.
Okay.
I was really surprised by that myself after the fact. Roy says a polarizer would have been better. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, polarizer would have been good. I was saying I'm very excited to test out the Z9 at some point just to see what some of the capabilities are for it, because it just seems like it does seem fascinating, a fascinating camera with some of the things they could do. I'd just be interested to see how it stacks up to some of the cameras I use.
Yeah, well, obviously, the one thing about it is for video is you're going to have to buy some more expensive CF Express cards. And this is what I was shooting today. I don't know if it's going to block out my face. Too close. There you go.
There you go.
This is what I was shooting today.
Okay.
So it is a minimum write speed, of it's between 1400 and 1500 megabits. So, I didn't have any problem with the card. However, 128 gig doesn't give you a lot of time at 8K. Not that I'm shooting all 8K or whatever, but I did test it today. Here's the other thing I noticed. At 240 frames per second in 8K, I pause the video and it's just like a still photo. It's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, that's the nice thing with that. It's the one benefit of having that higher resolution is you can get pretty much still like images from your video.
Now, you don't have to use these and the fastest cards in the world. If you're just shooting photos, I have XQD cards, which it will use. It also uses I can use XQD cards. I have a handful of those from my DSLR days. And you can use them for stills. You're not going to get the same frame rates with those cards. They're not near as fast to write. But if you're in a studio, they work fine. And I think I don't have it up over here. I think that you're looking at about, as I was downloading some of it today, I think 35 megabit files from 45 megapixel. So
it's not terrible.
No, not at all. So anyway, yeah, you might try it out just for kicks and grins, John. I don't know. Obviously, I don't think it fits what you guys are doing. But
I mean, you can't say 8K is not too bad though. That'd be interesting to at least test it out.
and it's all internal. No overheating. 2 hour and 5 minute time limit on the. And why they chose 2 hours and 5 minutes, I don't know. But who's shooting 8K for 2 hours in a burst?
Yeah, that's interesting. That it is 2 hours. I wonder why. I know sometimes that like cameras used to have like it used to be an actual law that if it's not an actual video camera,
That was
yes. So you used to
that went away years ago, but manufacturers hung on to it for whatever reason, and that's been a big gripe in the DSLR community for a long time.
Yep.
But finally, Nikon decided, okay, we'll quit playing the game, and they opened it up. So
yeah.
And supposedly it'll shoot 4K forever. I mean, you run out of battery or you have external power to it or something, or you're going to fill up unless you got a 40 terabyte CF Express card. So you're really limited now by your storage on your card, your memory card. So
yeah, that's something I deal with on a regular basis. So no.
Yeah, and it ain't cheap, of course.
No, not typical. No.
Oh, but yeah, anybody throw some video questions and audio questions.
I'll cut in here. Agnetha asked if you use a stereo mic on a camera with a mono input, will you still get stereo sound in the video? No. The second you plug a stereo device into a mono input, it records to a mono file. If you have a dual mono input, you could strip the left into one side and the right into the other. But honestly, most mics are going to be recording mono that the camera then translates into stereo, oddly enough. I know that I run into that with my Sony A7S. When I'm recording, it actually records to a stereo file from my mono mic. So I would say your best bet would be to either record into 2 inputs and then merge the files into a stereo track, or to buy a recorder that records in stereo or has a stereo input.
These are the questions that we need answers to. And I think a lot of people are afraid to ask maybe some of these questions, but honestly, it's a good question, Agnetha. Thank you. You just answered one of my questions that I should have asked a while back, but so what else, folks?
Ooh, looks like some more people on the radioactive lenses from the one I bought, which Albert's telling me the one that I got, I do know it's an M42 lens because I had to get an adapter for it. And thankfully there is this person on our Discord who's like super into vintage lenses. And she put me on to getting this specific one and the M42 conversion. So, but Albert says it's one of the greatest lenses of all time because it's superior color rendition and micro contrast, and it's very sharp. So he says I won't be disappointed. I'm really excited. Maybe it's one of those lenses that, hey, maybe I'll use it on every client shoot from here on out. Have a good story to tell my clients.
Yeah, there you go.
Gustavo, it's real easy to switch between stills and video on the Z9. You flip the switch from stills to video with your thumb. There's a little switch up the top right beside the viewfinder, the EVF, and it switches the settings over to whatever you have set for video. So yeah, that's pretty easy. And there's a lot of ways to customize it, which this is the next phase of this camera for me, is setting it up after I find what I like and what works best, and setting it up with all the function buttons and remapping other buttons and things like that to make it simpler for me to use. I'm not there yet. I just experienced the AF for the first time today, honestly. So HDMI question, Mr. Bigsby, HDMI common and the small HDMI problem?
Not typically. It's just, it's nice if you have full-size HDMI But you know, I mean, if you have the small HDMI, you just have to get the converter for it. So I
So
don't think if there's anything specific that's
one of
different.
the I was gonna say one of the things I've run into is when converting from a micro HDMI to a full size. Generally, the output signal is weaker. So where on HDMI, I wouldn't hesitate to go on a 25-foot cable. You want that run to be significantly smaller, until you get to wherever it's going. You could use something like a decimator to reclock it and shoot it on its way. But that's the only difference that I've seen between a full size and a micro HDMI.
Yeah, and if you need to run it longer, you can always convert HDMI to SDI, which is your standard,
Yes.
video, and then convert it back to HDMI at the end of it if you need to. And that's what I've done sometimes in live stream situations where I've got to run a cable, 200 feet somewhere.
Mhm.
HDMI just can't keep up with that.
You
Do
can
you-
also run HDMI over IP.
Yep.
So it ends up being a Cat 6 cable, and that can go as long as you need it. Yeah, it's way too far.
Look, is it possible for HDMI to catch up to SDI? And do you think that's going to happen if it is possible?
I don't think so. I think there's a technical limitation to how HDMI transfers versus SDI. And I don't know the technical reasons for it. I'm sure Linus Tech Tips has done something on it on YouTube. So I'll have to look that
So,
up. But
as I understand, HDMI carries HDCP, which is their security protocol that prevents you from being able to do stuff like copy movies, whereas SDI does not. And that's the main reason you
Wow.
see things like HDMI and DisplayPort on laptops, and you don't see things like SDI on laptops.
It's interesting.
interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a little more than an audio tech.
There you go.
Yeah, I see that.
Just a little.
I see that. We're going to have to get you booked on Gerald Undone. I don't know if you've seen him. If you've seen his channel, he's a great guy. He's very
He's great.
technical. And he goes
Oh.
over all of this stuff. And it just blows me away. I'm eating potato chips and watching a TV show because he loses me after about 2 minutes. But
I'm into all the technical stuff and he loses me after a while. It's just like it's great when you need to exactly know something, but it's trying to watch some of his content's like, okay, wow, we're like really going in depth on this.
Charles, hey, man, thanks for stopping by, brother. Enjoyed you being in here. And Bob Parnell, good to see you. He's out in California, so you guys know they have it easy over there. It's not so late. This must be one of your guys.
Which
What is that?
Oh, the diegetic audio.
That's
Yeah.
me. I
That's
was
him.
replying to Bob trying to get more information.
That's you.
Yeah.
All right.
To really answer that question, Bob, I would need to know what you're looking at recording. As far as something directional, Sennheiser makes a amazing lapel microphone that goes directly either into a Lightning or a USB-C connector. That allows you to record directly to your phone. It also comes with an app that allows you to change the gain and compression settings. If you're looking for something more like a shotgun mic, you're going to be hard pressed to find anything that does that.
You could also go with a Rode Wireless Go 2s. Those seem to be pretty good.
Yes.
And I think DJI is actually coming out with their own version of that here at some point soon as well. But I have to say, I use a variation of the Rode Wireless Go 2 mostly because I got sent it to test it out and to keep it. But like having those ones that are like really quick to set up and they're really small and you don't even need the mics with them. They are mics themselves, and just you can clip it to your shirt it's really nice to use those. Yeah.
When he says he's recording separate audio to make a collection of different sounds. So that sounds more like you're going to need a shotgun microphone, just so that you have the isolation from other noise that could be coming in that you're not going to get with a lapel mic.
No.
Is Bluetooth worse than wireless from Roy Bigsby?
Yes. It depends on the wireless though. Like if you're doing your 2.4 what is it? 2.4 gigahertz.
2.4 gigahertz.
That's way better than Bluetooth. Bluetooth has too many issues. Well, it's fine, but it's not the most stable connection, I would say.
What I would say is if you're going to go more than about 4 foot, then you should be using wireless and not Bluetooth.
And specific wireless, right? Because I know you don't like 2.4 gigahertz because that's the internet band range.
No, so I don't like 2.4. And it's not just like internet. It's, cheap remote control cars, just remotes, Wi-Fi, anything that's connected to anything that's inexpensive is in the 2.4 gigahertz range.
Yep.
You spend a little more money and you get into the ultra high frequencies, which I'm struggling to remember exactly what those are, but it bumps you significantly higher where there's less clutter. It also gives you more power and the ability to punch through walls and vehicles and other things with the signal. So you're less likely to drop out as you get further and further away.
Mm-hmm.
What is Bluetooth? What frequency is Bluetooth?
That's a good question.
I don't know. Let me Google it.
Bluetooth. I'm assuming Bluetooth's different than a internet connection band frequency, right?
2.4 gigahertz.
There you have it.
2.402 specifically, and or 2.480 gigahertz.
So I'm an old ham radio operator, so I understand bandwidth allocation, and there's only so many bands that, things can operate in or on. So I did not know that, though. I thought it would be higher. I really did. Bluetooth.
That is interesting.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised to learn that.
Actually, I did once somehow end up with, because I did musician too, or used to play a lot more in bands and stuff, but used some wireless in-ears before, and come to find out the setup I had wasn't an illegal bandwidth range that I got from Amazon, and I was using it.
Yes. I've told people this before this is before we had Rode Go and all the other things. But Sony and Sennheiser made wireless mics, the old VHF version, and they make the UHF version. But people would buy them, or they'd find them somewhere and say, well, I'm going to buy them. And I'd always tell them, you need to be careful, man. You got to check the bandwidth because every country is different. That's why you can't, B&H doesn't sell much to Europe because Europe has a different frequency allocation table than we do. So you got to watch out for that. Next thing you know, you're talking on the airline frequency.
True.
Oh man.
Touch of Life Studio asks preferred mic for audio quality: the Sennheiser MK600 or the Rode NTG4 Plus for indoor applications. I'll let Josh answer this. I know I have both the MKE600 and the Rode NTG3. And I greatly preferred the audio quality I got out of the NTG3 than I did the MKE600, though the MKE600 is still good.
So I don't know much about the NTG4. I record almost exclusively with the MKE600. I specifically like it because it's self-powered. It means my recorder doesn't have to pump out 48-volt phantom power. Which tends to eat through the AA batteries that it gets powered by, which gets expensive. As far as the NTG4, if I'm remembering correctly, it's about $60 cheaper than the Sennheiser. It's comparable. Again, I don't have any hands-on experience, so I can't speak to it. But I'm a Sennheiser guy, and I really like my MKE600.
And I really like my Rode.
Yeah. See.
I like Hershey's. Because I don't have a dog in that fight. As long as it's working, I'm happy.
I mean, yeah, it's half the battle.
Yeah. So Bob also asked, do they make a wireless shotgun mic? I can tell you how to DIY it, but go ahead, you guys.
We actually interesting because Josh and I have figured out how to do this with this thing called the, gosh, what is it called? It's on my channel, and I should know
It's
this.
Sarmonic Blink 500 Pro.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
And
believe.
It's like the GoPro wireless
Yep.
those things, but it's from, I think it's from like Japan or China or somewhere they sent for me to try them, and they have a lot of connection issues. Let's just put it that way. But for our test, we figured out how to connect the MK6. Josh was actually in the video with me. We figured out how to connect the MKE 600 to them through a bunch of different random connections, and we're able to actually get I would say a pretty decent wireless connection between the boom mic and the camera. So
yeah, and on that video we even did a little bit of Foley just to see what it would sound like once it's processed. And I believe the conversion was as simple as XLR to 3.5 millimeter TRS, and then it plugged in where the mic would, or the lapel mic that would normally go on it, and you recorded right to it.
Yep.
That's what I did. That's why I say I can give you the DIY. I did it with the Rode Go.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, hey, great in a pinch when you gotta like get something like that. Would not rely on it, but
No, you'd be better off going to something like and I know I keep bringing this up, but the Zoom F3 fits in the palm of your hand, can supply that phantom power. So you don't necessarily need a shotgun mic that is self-powered or an inline phantom supply. And then all you need is the recorder, the cable, and the mic. And there's your wireless mic, because the recorder is what's wireless.
Yeah. Look, we all know you're getting kickbacks from Zoom, though, so I know it's.
No, I'm not. I'm just fascinated by this.
The old YouTuber thing. You're getting kickbacks, man. That's why you keep bringing it up. No.
I wish. No, actually, on my YouTube channel, I literally at 7:00 this afternoon released my tech dive in to the Zoom F3 and all the details.
Uh-oh.
So
we got a caller.
Ooh.
Hello. Go ahead. Yep, barely hear you. Hang on.
Of cameras together, what would I have to do?
Okay, start again, because it just connected about halfway through your sentence. Our audio guy is working on it right now.
What would I have to do?
Okay.
Sorry about that. Well, first, your name, sir.
Hi, my name is Rob.
Hey, Rob.
Hey, Rob.
Hello. Nice to be on the show. I would like to know what how I would genlock more than one camera together if I'm doing a multi-camera video shoot. 2 Z9s, for instance.
So okay. So you're trying to like connect them, you mean time sync them essentially, or what are you trying
time
to
code.
Well, I don't know specifically what Z9 has on it, but I know you can buy, and I'd have to look at whether or not they actually have this in it, but I know a lot of times cameras like my Blackmagic camera that I have, the 3.5 millimeter input jack actually can also serve as a time code sync, and you can buy something like a Tentacle, I think it's called Tentacle, time code from Amazon that'll actually like sets the time code for you. So you could run that between the two of them, or sometimes cameras have internal time code sequences that you could run. Another way would be, I don't know if you could do this, because I know with like, with an A10 Mini Pro or the A10 Minis, you can also control some of the cameras, but I don't know if you could do that without Blackmagic. So there might be a way remotely to do it, but you can also buy the things that help to time code sync different things. So, and I think Tentacle actually will help you not only between your cameras, but also if you're using an external recorder, you can time sync between all of them and kind of set them up that way. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. In general, I don't do that too much. I usually rely on a lot of scratch audio. So even if I have an external recorder, like when Josh and I go on shoots for my client, we're doing run and gun stuff. I'll use like just the scratch audio from my video to try to connect them. So I don't generally rely on time codes, but I mean that's definitely an easy way to do it and match it up in the end.
Well, what about not that you
All
want to
right.
do this, but what about the Adamus Ninja 5? It has a time code generator, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean you could use it on that too. I would assume. I'm trying to think how that would work between that. Because you would have to with the Atomos 5, I guess you'd have to record to it though, right? So you'd have to record out.
Right. Right.
Can the Z9 do that?
Yes, it can record external. It just doesn't.
Just open
No,
up.
I caught myself here. Yes, you can still record external.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know how that would look.
And
I guess
Vitaly's saying that he believes Z9. I thought so too. I was looking through the menu doing something else, and I thought I saw time code in there. So
Yep.
for the Z9, Gustavo's saying just use the GPS in the camera to do a time sync.
Yep. Yeah. I would assume it does have that in there. So look at them. I would just look at the manual and then kind of sync them. But usually it's pretty easy to get that time code in it.
Rob,
I know that Jerry
is this multiple Z9s or?
Right now I have one.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's where something like
I do have a Z7, and I don't know if they have upgraded to the point where it's a lot easier with the Z9 or not. I know that Jerry Gahonis did a lot of he did his music video using the Z9, so I know that it's got to be possible.
Yeah, no, I would definitely. Yeah, sounds like something you should really look in the manual to kind of see how it works with the cameras. And then, if you need something external and you're trying to connect a bunch of stuff, sometimes using like that, the tentacle sync E can be helpful. And sometimes those aren't too expensive, but yeah. It sounds like you got kind of the right idea for it right already. So
that help you, Rob?
It did. Thank you very much for your time, everybody.
Well, you're welcome.
No problem.
Thanks for the call.
You're welcome.
All right. Man, you guys are answering questions left and right tonight.
I know stuff. Some of this stuff I'm like me. Happen to remember.
John, you got to quit taking away all of Josh's questions.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Time code, that totally is up my alley.
I mean, you do have it in audio too. You have it in audio and video, so
yeah, you do. But we worry about it in audio.
You worry. Yeah.
It's not as big of a concern.
You guys are great. I hope you guys are having a good time.
Oh yeah.
It's
fun.
It is.
I'm looking back through comments here to see if there's anything else that.
Roy just asked a question. Josh, you want to answer that one?
You can. My initial answer is it's very similar, but it locks. It locks in place. That's the main difference.
It looks a lot like it, but
yeah. It has like a twisting lock as opposed to like screwing on an old TV cable,
which is great because this brings up, I think they do that because there's a problem with HDMI. A friend of mine's actually writing an article for our site about this, about connection points for modern cameras and stuff, and the reason why certain camera boards will fry from using HDMI or having that feedback loop, because we have a problem sometimes within our community for Blackmagic cameras that you're powering it with a V-mount battery, but then you're also using the V-mount battery to power your external monitor, and that external monitor is also plugged in through HDMI into your camera, and there's a feedback loop, and it'll go and fry your board or fry your thing sometimes. If you don't power it on. It's not happen often, but it's always recommended to, like, if you're plugging something into a camera that has some kind of power aspect, turn your camera off first, plug it in, and then turn your camera back on, just as a precaution. It's never might happen here or there, but it's generally recommended to power off things before you plug powered items into it. I'm trying to remember what it was called, because that's why they have the locking mechanism on that. Not only it's, in a live broadcast production, you don't want that thing to get yanked out on you, which HDMI is way easier to yank out.
So SDI has been around a long time. Again, that's another communication cable as well, used for 75 ohm or higher coax. Same connector, but you're right. It's very rugged. It's strong. It's not just going to arbitrarily fall out like a micro HDMI cable and a DSLR. Where did they come up with that idea? Nice thing about the Z9 is it has a full HDI connector receptacle, so you don't have to worry about that. Now I'm selling cameras. What's up with all those M&Ms, Josh? Mars giving you a kickback? I mean, you guys hear it too, I'm sure. All the influencers, well, he pushes Sony because Sony gives him cameras, and none of that's true. There may be something or whatever, but come on. Hate micro HDMI.
Micro anything is worthless. That's I love that comment. That's perfect.
Here it is. It's called galvanic isolation of HDMI cables is what it's called. There's a problem with the specific way it grounds the cables or whatever is not, the connection point's not done well enough, and they've been trying to figure out how to fix this. But I guess galvanic isolation is a design that separates electrical circuits to eliminate stray currents. And I think that's the problem they're having with HDMI and SDI is those stray currents and the grounding. There's some grounding problems that they just haven't figured out fully. So that's why you can get that fry, like a feedback, essentially.
Is an HDMI cable shielded?
Technically, I guess, if it's a good one.
Because I believe all SDI, well, all coax is shielded. I just wondered if coaxial SDI for cameras, if it's even the same thing. I don't know.
It is. It's shielded. I've done quite a few of the terminations, and it's shielded.
Okay.
Now,
no idea about HDMI though.
You should. It's one of those. It's like we're talking about like micro and making how bad micro is. But when it comes to actual cables, no matter what it is, buy reputable sources. Don't go buy third-party sources that are just out there, because that's when you start running into these problems where they didn't make them well enough, and you can fry components. So
that's actually one of those videos that oh shoot, our technical wizard. Anyway. I'm sorry?
Linus Tech Tips?
No, YouTuber. I just said his name a few minutes ago. Well, anyway, he has a video on just HDMI cables, and I did not know that there are differences. It's continued to grow or become better, or however you want to term it, HDMI over the years. And he brought up the same thing. He said, go ahead.
I was just going to say as the cables and terminals have evolved, so has the security protocols, which is why older laptops don't always work with newer machines, because they're looking for that talkback that they're not getting.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was just going to bring up, mimic what you had said, John. He talked about that. Don't just go buy some cheap HDMI cables, because there are major differences between those and the ones that are reputable, and that's what we all want to do. We all want to go to Amazon. What's the cheapest one?
Yeah, it's just
if I wait 2 days, I can get this one for $1 less.
Yep. It really goes with anything that cable related that you're plugging into your camera.
Yep.
Just, I know it's like, oh, it's the cheap thing that, you already spent. I mean, how much you guys have to spend on batteries again? Like a freaking, like more than the camera itself for the batteries for the
Yeah,
Z9.
250 bucks almost for the
So you want to like, oh, I'll just skimp on prices for the cables.
yeah. And
Yeah.
there, you know what, you bring that up, and a lot of people have done that, tried third-party batteries with Nikon's really good about, eliminating that.
Well, I'm sure that's good for profit for them.
Yeah.
Well, sure.
But yeah, you want that standard of quality and stuff. But yeah.
And there is a difference. There really is a difference too. I mean, a lot of people may want to argue that point. No, third party's fine. No, not always.
Yep. Someone asked about the preferred short coiled HDMI cable. I don't have one necessarily, but I have found a lot of good ones from Linus Tech Tips on YouTube. Actually, he tested like hundreds of HDMI cables, spent like thousands of dollars on like every HDMI cable he could find on Amazon, and tested them all essentially for science, and shows you which ones you should buy based on their testing. So I think that video should be pretty easy to find. Just, I spent $1,000 on HDMI cables for science. That's the video.
Is it Henry's Cables? I can't remember the name. I'll look that up. But reputable place. They make them. They can make them custom for you as well. The coiled cable, I have one. I got it for the Ninja to the camera, and because everybody recommended it, and it's like putting a chain up there. The thing is stiff. I didn't like it. Now, it doesn't mean anybody else won't. But I found this place. Actually, somebody recommended them, and I bought one of their thin HDMI cables, and I just like that much better. 6 inch. You get a small, very small lengths. It's very just great for a camera rig. So anyway.
Yep.
Yeah, I know I've had some luck with actually Kramer makes HDMI cables and a bunch of other video gear as well, mostly on the production side as opposed to actually recording in cameras. But their HDMI cables are very expensive, but for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Well, hey, off the topic, but what about audio cables? How bad can they get if you buy cheap?
So when it comes to audio cables and you buy them cheap, it's not a question of if they fail, it's how long until they do.
Okay.
And normally it's not actually the wiring, it's the soldering and the connectors that they're putting on them, because that's where the real cost comes from.
Okay.
So when you're looking for one, you want I think it's Switchcraft are like some of the best XLR connectors, and they make all sorts of other ones, all the other connectors as well. But really, it's the connections that you're looking at, not the wire itself.
So my pretty colored XLR cables that are easy for me to manage because I know where it ends and where it begins.
If it works, yeah, that's great. But it's when it stops working, that's generally going to be your cheap cable.
Well, I don't know. My audio stops so often. I don't know what I'd be replacing XLR cables daily, but I know what you mean though, Josh. I just wondered if there was an issue.
I will say someone's warning not to get suckered into Josh's audiophile community. Mozman saying Monoprice has decent cables for a good price. So that's what he says.
That's exactly what I'm saying is, cheap cables are great, but they're not going to last as long as expensive cables. Especially if you're, setting up and tearing down and you're shooting here and going there and stretching it, and they're gonna break down significantly faster than some more beefy, higher priced cables would.
That doesn't come up in conversation often when we're talking about cables, whether it's HDMI, SDI, or XLR or whatever. I can see that, but maybe some of the others, if you're a fix and forget studio, you're not touching it again. I would guess you can get away with a whole lot more, but the ruggedness is what you're looking for you guys, run and gun, doing all these different things, setting up in different places. Yeah. And connectors would be the big failure point. I could see that just in handling.
Yep, that's the first thing Josh does whenever he comes on a trip with me and I've bought new audio gear, because I always get a list from him every time of what you should be updating to, and he'll just take the end pieces apart and like, what's this? Why is it soldered this way? Why'd you get this part? So
I'm a little particular.
yeah, he is. And I'm just like, well, you know,
as an audio guy, you have to be, Josh, because you're gonna hear about it, man.
Literally,
no pun intended.
Oh my gosh. Roy asked, do video guys still use XLR? I do. I prefer if my camera has a full-size XLR input. My Ursa G2 does. The broadcast cameras that I use and the cinema cameras I use generally do. Now, the smaller pocket ones have micro XLR, which is pretty easy to kind of connect to that. But yeah, I use XLR. I like XLR pretty much. I hate using 3.5 millimeter. If you know,
why does it just feel cheap?
3.5 millimeter?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying it is, but why does it just feel that way? Maybe because you could plug it into your Sony Walkman years ago.
Yeah, maybe it's probably because it's like a lot of the consumer stuff used to be. Well, I guess, yeah, because you don't really plug any headphones into anything anymore unless it's professional stuff. So,
yeah.
No.
Here we go. Here's a good question about shooting in a flat profile for video. So, generally, it depends on the flat profile, right? Because there's so many different kinds. For Blackmagic, you generally do that because it's more of a raw profile, and oh, he's like, so it's like a raw. Essentially, if you have the flat profile, it keeps it helps you capture the most information, and then you go back and you process it essentially. So flat really helps for you to start at a base level with it, with nothing being done to the footage whatsoever at that point. Now, true raw, supposedly, most cameras do not have true raw besides Red cameras, because for some reason Red decided to put a patent on raw footage over, I think, above anything above 2.5K that has raw footage. You can't do, because Red has a patent on it. It's very strange. Some people Apple have gone and sued them for it and have actually not won. So it's kind of fascinating, but it's technically, it's basically raw with the flat, but it helps to sometimes, or even in Sony's case, it helps in the shadows and the highlights, depending on what that flat profile does. And then it's almost kind of like in our discussion earlier when with Andrew, I believe, when he was talking about, like, you know, getting the footage process and the film process afterwards. It's kind of the same process. You have to put it through something. You have to convert it to specific color sciences and stuff afterwards to get to where it was. But having a flat profile really allows you to go in there and tweak a lot more things non-destructively in your footage when it comes to color. But again, a lot of times, I mean, I'll shoot in raw footage, but I'll have like quick, easy processes, because if you're really getting in there and trying to really color grade and color correct, it takes a while, and it's like it's this whole other skill. So, but that's kind of the advantage of flat profile, is you get way more information that you can use and then convert it to however you kind of want to do it. So, you know, a lot of different things, like if you're uploading to YouTube, you're going to want, you know, more of a Rec 709 output. But if you're pushing it out to TV or you're pushing out to film, there's different color profiles or color codecs essentially that you have to convert it to. So having something like a raw and flat profile will help you kind of be able to adjust to that non-destructively with your footage.
That's good info. Thank you.
But there's nothing wrong with shooting ProRes and not having it flat and just having it already looking nice, you know. So
that's what us audio guys do.
Is there ProRes for audio?
No, I meant when I shoot video, I honestly
you shoot
wouldn't even know how to shoot
audio?
raw.
Flat audio.
Yes.
I mean, that's essentially
Actually-
what 32-bit float is, right?
Actually, yeah, it's like shooting a flat raw audio file. And when you're talking flat, you're talking colorization. From an audio standpoint, when you're talking flat, you're talking frequency response from the microphone in the microphone capsule.
Boy, I kicked that hornet's nest, didn't I?
Just a little. But it also it also depends on what you're mixing on, how you're mastering. What the flat actually sounds like is unless you're spending hundreds of dollars to specifically tune a sound system, it's very difficult to get any sort of real reference as to what it sounded like recorded.
Right. Roy asked a good question about, and this is very key if you don't want to get mocked in a community. How is color grading different to color balancing or color correction is, I think, the better term for it. So initially, when you go into your footage, and I'm sure it's the same with photography, before you even get into color balancing, or like you go in, you adjust your contrast, you adjust your black levels, your white levels, your shadows, your exposure, all that kind of stuff. And then also, you use your like curves and stuff for it if you really get in depth to it and some of that kind of stuff. So you're really like color correction is more, it's funny that they even call it that. It's more, that's color correction. You're really just balancing the light, the
For us,
darks.
that's what we call it, white balance. Start off.
Yeah. So that's kind of, and then color grading is more when you're doing something for a specific look for the story. So like, if you're doing that teal and orange look, so, you're getting your footage to look more like that, or you're changing the color of how the greens look and the trees and stuff like that. That's when you get more into color grading, but you do that kind of after you color correct, you balance everything, white levels, black levels, all that. You convert it to maybe like a Rec 709 color space or whatever you're doing. And then after you've got it to like a balanced place from color, white balance, and exposure, then you go onto the color grading, if that makes sense. And I will say, I am not a colorist. I have friends that are, and he explains it way better than I did. If you want to learn like slightly a little bit more about it in like a fun way, I did a video with him not too long ago where we actually looked at TikTok color correction, color grading tips, and sort of made fun of them more just because some of them were really funny. But he also gave a lot of helpful information looking at them and explaining what he would do with them, and explaining even what people in the TikToks were doing and maybe what they could have done better. So yeah, maybe take a look at that, and then some other people. But that's kind of the difference on a very basic level.
You just made that click for me because, I've listened to all the color grading, color whatever in video. And, the way you broke it down, I look at it, we do exposure correction first, then white balance, which is, I don't know why sometimes, because I like what I see, but, that's the big thing. Well, this needs to be white balanced. And then color, we don't say color grading. We just say edit the photo, whether it's adding saturation, taking away saturation, or tweaking colors or whatever. So that would be color grading, I guess.
Yeah, essentially.
In video.
Yeah. So, I mean, you definitely want to convert it to the right color profile that you're going for, like I said before, depending on where you're converting it to. But you want to get it to that balanced level. And there's techniques to do it for different things, but you get it balanced and you get everything, nice and clean as far as like color, everything. And then you go in and you do your creative edit to it, essentially. I guess what you would do with photos, like you edit it, which is the color grading, essentially.
Color checker he's asking about, and Albert kind of went through the same thing. I've got a color checker, and for video, it's just pull it up, get,
Yeah. I
don't know. It's more for exposure, it seems, than anything.
Yeah. So I've tried to use those in the past, haven't liked them. Don't really like the way they even color like, I know some people that'll use them, but a lot of times if you just use like a white card or a gray card, that's perfectly fine too. And then you just expose based on that. Like I know my Black Magic, I can hold up a white card and then it'll auto white balance off of that. But a lot of times I'll just do it based on settings or based on what I can see in the camera. And then with RAW, the nice thing with B-RAW, the stuff the codecs I use, I can actually go back after I film something and change the white balance non-destructively because of all the information they captured. But if you're using something that doesn't have that, like a color checker is not terrible. I would just say get it. Even though my video files can be changed non-destructively in post-production, I always still say to anyone that I talk about this with, get the white balance as close to perfect as you can. The closer it is, the less issues you're going to run in with in post. So, I mean, they give you some good guidelines in some of those auto or some of the white balance properties in general half the time. So, if you're in sunlight, use the sunlight setting and then maybe tweak it from there. A lot of times that's what I'll do based on the, if there's cloud coverage, I'll use the cloud coverage one. If I'm in tungsten lighting, I'll use tungsten or, fluorescent and kind of switch from that. And then in post, I'll edit it somewhat. But yeah, I don't usually use a color checker too much.
Yeah, Roy's talking about for what he uses it for. For me, I'm just making videos that I like. And I still have, people would still say, well, the white balance is off. I know. I like it.
And that's okay. There was an interesting article I read that
why is it wrong?
Yeah. That I think it was DP Review or maybe it was YM Cinema Magazine wrote that it's kind of getting on people for being a little bit of like color grading Nazis, essentially, where it's like, you could pull up frames. And I'm actually planning on doing this with my colorist in a video where I'm not going to tell him that some of the stills I'm going to show him actually came from real movies, like award-winning movies. If you threw a still frame up from the old Matrix movies and you put that in a Facebook community group, people would rip you just because they're going to say, oh, there's so much green in the shadows. There's so much green in the look. So in some ways, like, yeah, the white balance isn't like perfect, but then if you're perfect with your white balance and people are like, oh, this isn't creative enough. This is too boring. So it's like, like maybe think before you go off on stuff and really correct people when it's
too
like
vanilla now.
Yeah. So it depends on your specific look. Cause sometimes you don't have to have that perfect white balance.
And I wondered about that because then they slap a LUT on there that just everything goes crazy, but I like it. What?
Yeah.
So do we have to start with white balance if you're just going to slap a LUT on it and it looks good?
Oh, yeah. Now with that, you probably want to get pretty close if you're throwing a LUT on it. But
there we go.
LUTs are hard because it's just people make them, but it's unless you recreate their specific like shots they got, for the little promo they put together for LUTs. It's kind of hard to match LUTs half the time, and you usually have to tweak them a lot anyways. So, but sometimes you can find really good LUT packs and stuff. I usually try to find ones, if you're going for a LUT pack, find something that's non-destructive and is very light. It's not heavy, because when you start getting to those heavy LUTs, it just, things start breaking down because it's, it's hard to kind of match them sometimes.
I just wondered. I mean, I watch a lot of movies, and none of them are white balanced that I see. They're not even close.
But that's because it's made to see. That's what the problem is with listening to people on Facebook communities. You really just need to go to people who actually like do this for a living and get paid millions of dollars to do it. But I mean, it's all about it's about a creative vision, right? So a lot of times they'll do the white balance to emit certain feelings or emotions or get that kind of duotone effect in movies, and that's why they kind of have that white balance issue. Or
So yeah, Roy he just brought it up because he shoots products, and I understand that Coke wants their red to be the same on every screen. That is their signature, and so on and so forth. I get that. I wouldn't argue with that for a minute. But anything that's creative, and then we're going to argue over the colors wrong. I have an issue with that.
There's some stuff though, that's just like, oof, that just doesn't look right. And some of that does. I mean, some of it is personal preference because certain people like different things. But then there's just certain things like those colors don't those don't work together.
Would you
And
dress in that and go out in town?
that's part of it is like, you know, if you're doing those like color grades, those creative color grades, you want to make sure that the palettes you're using actually complement each other. And that's why a lot of times, you know, you'll see the teal and orange stuff in a lot of YouTube travel.
That's every commercial on TV.
Yeah, but it's because those colors complement each other.
Right.
Or I'm trying to think of another one, like Ad Astra was another good movie with Brad Pitt. You notice that through the whole film. It's the blues and the oranges and reds, and they all complement each other.
Yeah.
But it's but it helps to kind of like give that emotion of the film.
So I found one of those color wheels that you can just pick a color and it'll show you the complementary color or tricolor. And I thought that was really neat. And I think everybody might benefit from kind of having that. You find it online everywhere. Just a page. I don't know what it was. I have to dig mine up, but it's really fun to just play with for a minute. And then you realize, oh, that's why my mom said you're not going to school in that.
Yep. So, you know, sometimes you can break that rule, but you know, if you want to have like clashing colors, it has to be, for me, it has to have a creative reason to help tell a story. So if it helps, so, you know, if you, but again, like if you're not doing, I guess with everything, you kind of want to have purpose, right? Like it's even for photography, you're framing that shot up and it's more than just like, oh, hitting a button, oh, done, took a photo. It's more, what am I trying to say with this photo? Like, you know, when you're actually really getting into it, what am I trying to say with this, with the framing, with the way it's, you know, I correct it later on, all of it, with the aesthetic. What am I trying to say with this and convey with it? And if you're doing things just for doing them and it's not part of the story, helping tell the story, then, you know, maybe you shouldn't be doing it.
No, I get it. You know, if it's going to look outlandish, it needs to be reflected in the story or something.
Which I agree with Albert. People will complain about everything and anything. Absolutely.
Now, is color correction and color grading only necessary when shooting in RAW?
No, you still can do it even with other things, even if they're not in RAW. It's just a little bit different because you have a lot less latitude. It's like your 32-bit float. I'll explain it to you like an audio person. It's 32-bit float. You have way more information to be able to change things non-destructively. If you have that flat, more raw profile, you have way more information that you can pull from, and the way it's kind of the footage is taken, you can edit it a lot more without, you know, doing it. So there's some, I wish I could pull up the photo, or if I could find the photo for this, but there's, you know, like the color wheel. So you have like a color wheel essentially. And when you start doing things like Rec 709, because, you know, they want to make sure the colors come across the same on every screen, it takes that color wheel and it essentially condenses it down to like this much. And whatever's in that like condensement is what the colors that can be shown. And if you're already filming in that, there's not much room to adjust it. Where if you're filming more in the RAW, it opens up to more of that color wheel. I'm not explaining it perfectly technically, but I'm trying to explain it in like an easy to grasp term, if that makes sense.
So it gives you a larger dynamic range for color and exposure.
Yeah, way more information. The more, especially in the highlights and shadows.
So for those of us that are novices and we just want to produce a video for our YouTube channel, and all we want to do is review whatever.
Shooting something that's not flat. There's no reason to do it unless you're really wanting to do.
And that was where I was going. Yeah. Do I need to? But we all think we have to.
No, you know? I mean, half the time people don't know. Like there's even movies that are shot in like ProRes and stuff. So I mean, it's not that it's not that big of a deal. Like if you're not really a video person, no one's gonna know. Most people I could show videos to, and people think they look like the same thing, even though I could tell you one's better and one's not.
The real key to success here then is don't shoot in flat or raw or whatever. Shoot in one of the other profiles in the camera This is us novices. And just make sure your exposure is right when you're shooting the video and your white balance is close, and you should be good to go.
Yeah, I mean, to start off with, just to get started, I mean, you're already going to have to be worrying about so many other things. Yeah. And then, eventually if you get kind of down what you're doing with that already, that profile, move into maybe testing out some stuff with the flat. But if you want to film stuff right away, I wouldn't do that. I would definitely start doing tests with the flat profile, research it, figure out how to convert it, because for each camera, every camera has a different codec, and every camera and footage and files, even within certain brands with different cameras, there's different ways to convert to certain color spaces. So,
but we listen to these pros all the time, and they just kind of push us into this idea of, well, we have to do it that way too. And they never really explain that, hey, I'm doing this for commercial work, and it has to be this way, that, or whatever. I'm not. I'm shooting for what I have 289 subscribers on YouTube.
yeah.
So am I just making work for myself and causing problems for myself?
Yeah. I mean,
right.
Simple answer.
I like that answer. Don't go any further. No.
Yeah, like one of the commenters just said that telling a story is first, technical aspects are secondary, and it's also skill and experience. And the technical stuff, you at some point you have to realize, like, I'm never going to understand fully and be an expert at every single step in the process. What's something I'm good at, and then how do I also get other people around me that, if I have a creative vision, can help. So, but my thing is get better. Like, the better you are at storytelling, the better you are at composition and understanding how to use a camera properly, as far as exposure and all of that. That to me is more important at the end of the day.
No, you just made my life a whole lot easier. Seriously, Josh, because I just feel like, well, everybody has to shoot flat. And that's all everybody talks about. Oh, the flat profile. I got to shoot flat. And I appreciate, Josh, you bringing it up. All right, I'm done with that. They don't even need to put it in the camera anymore. Give me the auto mode.
I wouldn't say that, but I mean, it's really helpful if you really like to have something and play around with color. And
John,
really
Netflix isn't beating my door down.
Yeah.
Well, before it gets too far down, Roy Bigsby asked, apart from aperture, LED lighting often has holes in the spectrum for stills. Is video the same?
I don't even know what that means.
Does he mean so it's not, I'm assuming he's talking about banding.
Could you clarify, Roy?
Help us out, Roy.
I mean, that sounds right. I know from the TV lighting that I've done, both the little bit of traditional, I can't think of the word for them, and LED. The LED ones were significantly more difficult to get tuned properly, and you're not gelling. You're literally changing the different intensities of the RGB diodes within the lighting fixture. So he says some colors are missing from the spectrum. I don't know. I mean, I would assume if it's affecting photography, it would affect video in the same way.
I've not run into any of those issues, and I feel like if that was a problem, I would probably know about it. At least I would.
And I understand why. He's shooting stills, commercial work using constant light with. Okay, I get it now. Because I wouldn't have noticed it. I don't use any constant light for stills.
Gotcha. Oh yeah, because there's the difference where you guys don't always use a constant light like we do with video, because you use more of the flash.
Yeah, because flash is more powerful. It just makes it so much easier. And besides that, the last model I had couldn't see for 3 weeks because I had that constant light going at full power to get enough light to shoot portraits. Just kidding, of course, but it is a pain. But yeah. So
Gotcha. I get what you're saying. I sort of get what you're saying.
Just sounds to me like cheap lights.
which is really weird because Aperture's done
not
well. They've
cheap.
got a
Yeah.
they've got a lot of they got a huge following now.
Now
From
he did exclude Aperture from that statement.
Oh, okay.
oh.
Then yeah.
Oh, Godox. Okay. For constant lights, their flash strobe is fine, but I see what he's saying. Yeah, Aperture worked hard for that reputation, though. They were a cheap light when they first started out, but they put some work into it and have they got a lot of people following them now and using their lighting.
Yeah, they're good, and there's some other ones too. It's just Aperture's so expensive, but when you get their light, it's hard
The
to go back.
cheaper of, you can go to Godox, but that's what he's saying. You get what you pay for. It's one of those deals.
Trying to remember which ones I bought. I bought some new lights here recently. I don't remember which they were, but they're pretty nice. They're really small though. They're small and pretty close to the brightness that Aperture gives, but Aperture is always a pain for me to travel with on flights just because it's bigger.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting. I didn't realize that about. I guess that's the difference between photography and video. I don't know if I would have had that problem with a
shooting still work with constant lights isn't so bad because then you don't have to worry about anything, movement or anything at all. And it's fine because you can set the shutter speed,
whatever,
fix the app or fix the exposure, blah, blah, blah. So, but I didn't know about the color issue with the Godox chip on board lights.
Yeah, that was fascinating. That is interesting to know. I'll have to actually look into that now.
And that's always a big deal on the photography side with strobes, the difference between Profoto, a Godox, or Westcott, or whatever. And there's always arguments about what's the best, this, that, whatever. Half the people have loved photos that were shot with any one of those and not know it, but will swear that one of them's bad or whatever. And there probably are some subtle differences. And then we talk about durability. That's a whole other category. But as far as the light itself, had to go back to strobes. The nice thing about constant light and network is you get what you see with constant light.
Cool.
All right, we still got 12 people in here. Wow, I'm really surprised. Appreciate you guys hanging around. Mike just showed up. You've been out on the town, haven't you? Left us here high and dry. No,
but it has been great. I feel like we've had a little bit more questions and discussion than last time, so it's been fun.
Yeah.
Well,
it's because I'm here.
There you go. There you go. The audio man is on site. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why everything's working.
Too big of a head.
You got one of them big belly packs with all your gear in the front, like I see on TV.
Yeah. It's not mine, but yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that was one of the required list things that I had to buy him for shoot. So.
Yes.
Oh, you booming all your audio or miking?
Almost all of it is hidden lapels.
Yep.
So we'll tape it to the inside of a shirt or a collar or pocket where you can't see it, and we'll throw a shotgun mic on the camera and run.
That's cool. I see guys booming. I don't know how that works. It still boggles my mind. I mean, that's an art to itself, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
A
lot of issues if you're not on like a clean set.
Well, and then 6 or 8 inches to the left sometimes can completely ruin your audio. So when you have people moving from here and there, then you're gonna want more than just a boom mic.
Yeah, I'd be, scratching my butt, and I have the mic boomed over the wrong person. Somebody go, "Hey," and I'd switch it to the other guy when the other guy started talking. So, yeah, that's an intense thing, I guess. You know what? The guys that can't carry their camera all day long need not apply for the boom operator.
No.
Uh,
Oh,
Roy asks if we blend lav and shotgun mics. No, Josh, do you have a reason why?
you don't want to blend the audio. So the shotgun mic is two reasons mainly, is to allow you to line up your audio more easily with the video, and then as a backup in case the RF drops off on one of the packs for the lav mics. Blending them just doesn't make any sense because the quality from the lav is going to be significantly better than the shotgun. You're not going to be adding anything. The only thing you might do is actually just add some muddiness and just noise to what would have been cleaner audio.
Yeah, and sometimes they don't match properly. Like they don't fully like a 100% match. So you get a little bit of a weird, what would you call that effect?
It's a phase variance. So you
Yeah.
have one mic that's 8 to 10 inches from the mouth and another mic that's 10 to 12 feet. And so sound takes significantly longer to get to the shotgun mic than it would to the mic that's on the person.
Yep.
What's the term?
Phase variance, I believe.
No, the train coming and going.
The Doppler effect.
Doppler effect. Isn't that kind of like the Doppler effect?
Kind of. The Doppler effect is...
You can make a fool of me, Josh. I don't mind.
So the Doppler effect, essentially, as something's approaching you, the frequency shifts higher because it's moving faster. Whereas when it's moving away from you, it shifts lower because it's moving slower when it gets to you. Because sound moves at the sum of both the motion and the rate at which the vibrations flow through the air.
Well, of course it does.
I just know which good mic sounds good, and that's what I go with.
So yes, Roy, it's not quite Doppler. They're just out of phase with each other.
Yeah.
Roy, don't listen to Chuck.
But
Chuck has lots of audio problems. He's not the person to listen to.
Oh my gosh. We do use specific lapels though. And over time we've kind of upgraded to better ones that have lower noise floor and are easier to hide and have the hardest problem you always deal with lapel mics is the scratching and stuff. So there's several techniques to deal with that. And like the better the lapel mics you get, the less you have to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're upgrading this year to more Countryman B6 lapels.
Those are not cheap, are they?
No, they're like $330 like a mic, I believe.
Yeah.
So, which is essentially like the other ones I can get the whole wireless kit for about $330 with a decent lapel mic. So it is what it is, but it just makes it way easier if you have good audio. But you can get away with other stuff.
Well, that's where folks like you come in too, because we think, okay, buy once, buy right, and what's going to be best? It's going to be what costs more. And especially in the audio, video, photography world, that isn't always the case. Just because it costs more.
No. Yeah. I mean, it's all, I think it also, it's the same thing with any kind of camera gear or anything. It's like, just because it costs more doesn't necessarily mean it works well specifically for what you're trying to do with it. So it's always trying to match gear with use cases and making sure the gear you're using is actually made for what you're doing. Not someone on YouTube tells you, oh, this is the best thing that's ever been made, you need to use it, and then you get it and you're like,
he's getting kickbacks.
Yeah.
Well, and to go back to the comparison between the Rode Lavs and the Countryman B6, another way to look at it could be, and I don't know that this is the case, but the Rode mics could have a more sensitive capsule, which is why the noise floor is so much significantly higher, because it's picking up more subtle noises.
Okay.
So it could just be that it's a different application, whereas the B6 could be more directional, could be have a higher threshold and be less sensitive. So it's not necessarily that the two mics are bad. It's just they could have two completely separate applications.
Okay. Well, that's why hearing it from you guys, it helps us, because then, it's expensive, but you hear people that are using it and think that, okay, it's a good piece of equipment. We use it, blah, blah, blah. It kind of makes you feel a little bit better when you're going to shell out a few more dollars for what's supposed to be good.
Yep. And that's always it's always something I try to tell the people who follow my channel all the time. Whenever I'm getting me advice, I'm like, this is how I use it, and this is how it works for me. I don't think about it, but I'm not telling you to buy this. I'm telling you this is how it works for me.
Yeah.
If this sounds like it's something that fits in what you're trying to do, by all means go for it. But I'm never really trying to people to buy something just because I'm using it. I'm trying to, because when I go try to find information about something, I'm trying to figure out how they use it in a similar way that I'm wanting to use it, and what was their experience with it. Because a lot of times you just get so much specs. Like I'll quote off specs all the time in my videos, but a lot of it's trying to set up a base to then go on and say, but this is how these specs work with what my use case is, if that makes sense. So that's always one thing. Don't just buy to buy, or because someone tells you to. Make sure that it works, or you have an idea of how to make it work with what you're wanting to do.
And if possible, I would even say rent it.
Yes.
A lot of places are renting gear now, or depending on if you have a good relationship with a supplier, they might actually give you a piece of demo gear where they'll let you try it out for a week. You get your hands on it, you play with it, and then if you like it, you keep it.
No, you're absolutely right. That's just on my part. It's just not taking the time to go do that, rather than, it's just so much easier. Let's get on B&H. Let's get on Amazon. Let's order out.
Oh, I mean, I'm not saying I'm
right,
that, but
no, but you're right. I mean, the right thing to do is to borrow it from somebody if they have it, or like you said, rent it or whatever, especially for a real expensive. Well, you know what? That doesn't matter either, because you buy enough lav mics to get one that works. Well, you've got an expensive lav mic now because it took 9 to get to this one. I talk about that a lot of times with people in photography, talking about they're just getting started and light stands, and everybody wants to buy the, $39 or $29 light stand. And it's hard and I know money's hard to come by, but I try to explain to them, I promise you, if you'll wait and save up and buy a C stand, you'll never buy another one. And you're going to buy a dozen of these little stands over and over again. So, I mean, that's the same thing with everything that we've been talking about is, buy right, buy once. Yep. Otherwise, you got a drawer full of them. You want to see mine?
And don't let gear get in the way of you going out and getting experience and learning how to do things just because you have a
yes.
It's and that's what I always experience and getting out there and doing. That's always what keeps people from getting better, is just doing it. Like putting yourself out there and being okay if you fail at it, and that your first whatever is not good. Just
it's cliche, but failing is learning. And you're not hurting anything in this world, videoing that, unless you crazily took a gig from somebody to do a commercial and you're trying to figure out how you're going to do that with your Coolpix pocket camera.
Yeah, don't do that.
Now you're in a pickle. Can't help you there, buddy.
Yeah. But you can take that camera and do some practice runs through and figure out what it's like to produce something like that. So when you do get that chance with better equipment, you're already there instead of,
Oh, you're right. You're absolutely right. And I think that's a big thing. And I'm guilty of it myself. For whatever reason, I just get caught up and
we all do.
I don't go out and shoot enough or whatever, but you're absolutely right. That's the best piece of equipment you can buy is, hands-on.
Yeah.
Mosman made a comment there, said he's cooked dinner, eaten dinner, had a few glasses of wine. Meanwhile, you guys sat there the whole time. Said he's starting to feel bad over there. So, and Agnetha, the show's been brought to you by your free time. Otherwise, what are you doing here watching a great show? Thanks, Agnetha. Appreciate it. Oh, man.
Gustavo asked, what kind of microphone would you use for wildlife video? To that, I would say that I would actually use 2 separate microphones. I would use one to record a unidirectional microphone to record like the soundscape, what the ambience is, the birds, the wind, the stream, whatever it is. And then if you're actually shooting a specific subject, I would have another shotgun microphone pointed at the subject. That way you're capturing direct audio from that and the entire surroundings. And then if you were mixing on like a 5.1, you could take the ambience and put it in the left, right, front and back, and then only put your subject in the front center. And that would give you that all encapsulating surround, like you're sitting in a forest watching what's going on.
Oh, okay. Cool. All right, folks, more equipment.
Yep. It gets expensive quick.
You always find something new. It's just like, yeah, just when you think you've bought it all, you're like, oh, there's something else I need.
Ain't that the truth? That's why I'm not allowed to stay up late and watch videos, reviews anymore. Credit card? Of course I have a credit card.
Yeah.
That one didn't work. Try this one.
Yeah, see, I always just use it's a business expense. It'll be tax write-offs, so that's why I always...
Yeah, there you go.
It's a bad excuse, though.
Roy followed up on a recommendation for a shotgun mic. I like my Sennheiser MKE 600. I think you can pick one up for just over $300. I mean, they're not that expensive, but I like it because it is self-powered with a single AA. You turn it on and it very easily converts from the XLR to a 3.5 millimeter TRS that goes into my Sony A7S. Or it can also be powered by phantom power from a recorder, but it does give you that ability to dump audio into either.
Oh, 2 gear deliveries today.
Oh,
those gear tinfoil hats for those people using radioactive lenses. Yeah, I know.
Oh yeah.
Hey guys, I think I'm going to shut it down here in a minute. I've had a great time though. I really have. You guys have been phenomenal, man. I hope you didn't mind me messing with you and having a good time.
No, that's what
not at all.
It's fun.
But yeah, you answered a big question for me though, John, with the no, don't shoot flat. I mean, for me, I know you're not telling everybody, but just shoot with one of the profiles in the camera and go for it. Because again, like I said, everybody makes you feel bad. All the pros, you got to shoot in flat profile. You have more latitude do I really need any latitude? Does the camera do okay? And I think you answered that question for me. Yeah, I think it does. I just thought I had to. If somebody asks, you shooting flat? I'm just going to tell them that. Yeah, I did. How's it look?
You're not going to know the difference. I mean,
I shot log, man.
Getting started, it's just like learning a video when you're getting into it. Whatever's the high, like just lower the barrier of entry and start with where you're comfortable with. So yeah. I mean, it's just easier not to film in flat to start off with. Don't do it. Like it's not.
I don't need to. I guess that's the big thing. So
a lot of people don't need to. A lot of people do it just to say they do it. So
yeah.
I mean, technically, I don't really need to film in a flat profile for my YouTube videos. I film in RAW for just because So yeah. But yeah, I've ever seen everyone in the the comments here. Yeah, glad we could be here. I could come on again and answer some extra questions and stuff.
Yeah, I'd be fun.
I don't have any radioactive lenses yet.
Do they gather more light?
I don't know. I will tell you. And maybe I'll come back and if I'm allowed back, I'll come back and talk about
Shoot, man. Of course you are. You
the
guys
radioactive.
are.
I'll come back and share some of my findings with the radioactive lenses when after I've
Oh, yeah.
them.
Oh, before I forget, I need to give you Andrew's number when we finish here, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
You could just text it to me if you want to, and I'll follow up with him.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead. You guys keep going for a minute.
Okay.
I'm losing things here. My mind to start with.
Yeah, great hanging out with everyone. Again, if you guys have any questions or anything, feel free to come over to, I'm not trying to poach followers or subscribers or anything.
No. Pitch your channel, all that. Make sure all that information goes out to everybody.
Come on over to the Frame Voyager channel. Just look up Frame Voyager on YouTube. We're actually expanding a lot of the content we're doing a couple of videos a week, moving it to 3 videos a week here soon at some point whenever I actually get a break from trying to catch up with everything else. But we're doing every week, we're doing like a fun video about something interesting, like those radioactive lenses. And then on Fridays, we have, typically whenever I can get it out, we have an calling it the Ungraded Camera News Show, where I'm kind of doing a little bit of a spoof on an actual news show, but we talk about all different types of things going on in the camera industry, whether it's photography or video. And in all of those, we actually, on our Frame Voyager website, are creating a little bit of a camera news site with blogs and news updates and different things that you can also read more from those stories that we talk about. So a lot going on there, but feel free to come on over. We have a lot of fun, a lot of fun, and definitely not your typical boring camera person sits at a table. I mean, which I do. I sit at a table, but it's, I do a lot of jokes, a lot of bits that go on way too long.
Yeah. And you can head over to the Diegetic Audio. If you search it on YouTube, I'm literally the only channel that will come up. It's relatively new, but we're getting going with the help of Frame Voyager. We're working on a couple of different projects together, one of which I'll mention is we are creating our own audio effects library. We're trying to figure out exactly when that's going to be live, but hopefully here within the next month, we'll be releasing our first pack. All of that is driven through my own recordings, and I'm kind of documenting that on the channel, as well as just talking about relevant audio subjects, and how to use audio effects in DAWs and how to produce audio. So again, that's a Diegetic Audio on YouTube.
And he's actually going to be on Frame Voyager's channel here. We're doing a series of technical videos from like beginning stage to advanced stage. And he's coming, I think we've written 16 scripts for you.
Yeah.
In combination with film, we're also going to be bouncing back and forth between them, but working on like, what should you be looking for in a microphone, depending on this? What's the different diaphragm stuff of the microphone doing? What's the different polar patterns or all that kind of like technical information? So he'll be kind of explaining what you should be looking for when you're going to purchase some of this stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Including some of the subjects that we've talked about tonight, like the bit rate, bit depth, file type, all of, that's all hopefully coming down the pipeline soon.
Yeah, as soon as I get a chance to film it and edit it, and along with all my other stuff. So
that's the catch.
Do me a favor, John, and you too, Josh. After this thing rolls over into a video, just drop all that information in a comment on the video. Okay. So it's there again for everybody to catch that may be interested.
Sure.
Maybe they didn't know they were interested until they see it there.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
We'll be sure to do that.
Absolutely.
All right. What time is it? 11:55. This is
we're going to close this down before we hit Sunday.
Yes. Any last minute questions, anybody? And I feel like an auctioneer.
We're good.
Going. No, I don't see anything else. Hey, for those that are in here right now, thank you very much for hanging in here to the end. I know you guys always do that. It's some of the same folks. I appreciate you being here. I hope you had fun. I hope you learned something. And I think Agnetha brought that up and talked about the fact that, she sat here, had a good time, and actually learned some things. I know I did. And again, very appreciative, John and Josh. And not only are you welcome back, when do you want to come back? You guys are welcome anytime. So you just let me know when you want to jump in again. Same thing. I'll set you up and you'll be in here. So and thanks for answering questions of the in the chat. Always appreciate that. And that again was the purpose of doing these live streams. Is I always dropped questions and videos that just never got answered. So doing a live stream, there's a real good chance you're going to get your question answered, even if it's I'm not sure, but you got a response where you don't necessarily get it with a lot of the big channels that I don't know if they care, as long as you hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. And while I like that too, I just can't see myself badgering people for it. So
yeah.
But no long goodbye, and let you guys wrap it up with anything you have. And
I think I'm good. Thanks for inviting us over again. Great being here. Love talking with you all. It's always been fun hanging out, talking cameras.
Absolutely. And thank you guys. I hope everybody has a great weekend or what's left of it. And yeah, we'll do it again. So for those of you that are around the normal cycle here, Wednesday at noon will be the next one. And I'm going to talk about the Z9 and what I did with it today out there at the motocross track. So be sure to tune in if you're interested. And, I'll answer any question I can. There may be something you throw at me that I can't, but, we'll work through it. Thanks for all the great advice tonight, gentlemen. And again, you're welcome back anytime.
Awesome.
Folks, God bless and have a great weekend.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.